call to order the City of Boynton Beach City Commission meeting today, Tuesday, June 16th at 5:30 p.m. John McNally, will you please provide us with the introduction?
Good evening. I'll be providing assistance to the mayor and elected officials during tonight's meeting. Before we start, I'd like to review a few housekeeping items so the public audience knows how to participate. Your microphones have been muted to reduce background noise during this public meeting. There will be specific times during the meeting when members of the public can ask questions and provide feedback. The first way is by typing their question into the questions section at the bottom of the GoToWebinar interface. Those items will be read into the record by a meeting organizer at the appropriate time. Please be sure to include your name for the record. The second way is by using the GoToWebinar interface and clicking on the raise hand option. A meeting organizer will announce the speaker and unmute their audio, at which time the speaker should state their name for the record. Before speaking, please take steps to minimize any sources of background noise and speak clearly into your device during your allotted time. I will now turn control over to Mayor Stephen Grant, who will be presiding over today's meeting.
Thank you, John. I would ask everyone to bow their head for an invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Christina Romulus. Dear Heavenly Father and Motherly Earth, we ask for your healing spirit in these times. We ask for your wisdom, your guidance, and your love. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. May I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Stephen B. Grant.
Present.
Vice Mayor Tyson Serga.
Here.
Commissioner Justin Katz.
Here.
Commissioner Woodrow Hay.
Here.
Commissioner Christina Romulus.
Present.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
All right. Any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda?
Mayor, I'd like to add one announcement. So 3D regarding a census competition amongst large municipalities.
Okay. All right. And is there anything else that we would like to add? Announcements. Yes, Lori.
Would you like to add, I'm just texting Chief Carter is having volume difficulties, but we do have a little announcement regarding fireworks safety, if you'd like to add that to item D.
I would, well, I'll add that for item E for our new old interim fire chief, Ray Carter.
Right. Thank you.
And that's kind of it. And so if there's no further corrections, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So move.
Second.
All right. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. Agenda is approved unanimously. Moving on to informational items by members of the City Commission. Commissioner Katz, would you like to begin?
Nothing to disclose at this time.
All right. Commissioner Hay, do you have anything to disclose?
Nothing to disclose. I'd just like to make a comment that I was very proud of our city manager and our chief of police on handling the situation with the mural at fire station number 1. Once she got the information, within an hour, it was taken down. Preliminary investigation was done and appropriate action was taken. And also for Chief Michael Gregory, he can almost walk on water right now in District 2. He's well loved and well respected for the involvement that he has shown, talking with people and actually doing that long march, which I did not do because my leg would not take it. But he did it, and it's nothing but praises right now for the way he's handling it. I can say that for Chief Michael Gregory and for the chief down in Delray Beach, Javaro Sims, They are both showing that community involvement, which is showing the results. So no real burning and rioting in our city. And it has a lot to do with them as well as the staff here in Boynton as to the way things are being handled. So again, hats off to our city manager, Laura Laveria, as well as our chief of police, Michael Gregory.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Romulus, do you have anything to disclose?
Yes, Mayor, I do. I would like to agree with Commissioner Hayes' comments. I fully stand behind the city manager in her decisions and the actions that she's taken in the past few weeks with the incident that happened here in the city. I do understand that several individuals who may not be privy to some of the things that happened within the organization may feel differently, but I wholeheartedly support her decision because I do believe that you know, when you're working when you are employed and you are being given the power to basically exercise your work and are being paid taxpayer dollars, you have a responsibility and you have an obligation to be diligent and to follow the rules of society. And that being said, individuals who were defaced or basically taken down and their memory and history erased and wiped should have never happened. And I stand by the decisions that our city manager made to reprimand and discipline the individuals who were involved. In addition to that, on a happier note, I did actually get to visit our new city hall and our new police station, and my God, it was an amazing opportunity, and to really just kind of put a tangible result to the work that's taken place in the 4 years since I've been on the commission, starting from really kind of having the initial talks and discussions to deciding, you know, to save the old high school and really doing all that. And now walking through and seeing all those buildings come out of the ground, no longer just being a blueprint or on paper, but now seeing them in actuality and getting to stand in the city manager's office and seeing the beach, seeing the seeing the ocean from there and having a really great panoramic view of the city just was it touched me. And I want to thank Colin Groff for taking about 2 hours of his afternoon to really do that tour with me all through all 4 levels of the new city hall and the old high school and the renovations there. And then I want to thank Chief Gregory for taking you know, another 2 hours of his life to walk me through and give me the grand tour of the police station. And it wasn't just the fact that I was touring the building, but it was I would say a opportunity to learn again and to appreciate again what our police department here in the city of Boynton Beach does and accomplishes each and every single day for our residents, and to know that they'll have a new home that they'll be housed in with updated technology and updated infrastructure to allow for us to continue our service to be you know, one of the best cities here in Palm Beach County, in my opinion, and maybe even the state. You know, it's a matter of pride. So I think we should all be proud of that work that we've done for those of us who's been on the commission through this whole process, and who will get to be a part of this new chapter in the city. So with that, I think I've talked enough, but thank you for just all the work that our department heads and our leaders outside of just the elected leaders are doing. We have, you know, I believe we have some things to really hold our heads up high for here in the city. It's a new day here in Boynton Beach. Glad to be a part of this team. Thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner Romulus. And Vice Mayor Pinsurga, do you have any informational disclosures?
Sure, I have no disclosures, but I do just want to echo everything that's just been said. We have been a standout in the area, in the country, in the state, with respect to how we've dealt with the protests. And I think that's largely due to the fact that our police department and our police chief knows the community, actually goes into the community and makes sure that there are those relationships, right? So we know who's who and who doesn't belong and who's actually the real organizers of the event. And so that's very important, community policing. I do want to just also give a shout out to Gary Dunmeyer, Andrew Mack, because when I call you for concerns regarding my constituents, you guys are always on top of things. This is also true for Adam Temple and team. And so thank you all, because that's the kind of city that I want our residents to know. We are on top of things, and all of you and your entire departments show that day in and day out. So I appreciate all the hard work everybody's putting in. Mayor, I am looking forward to the racial equity conversation, and I see that's coming up in our next meeting. So I'm looking forward to that.
Excellent. Thank you. For myself, I was there for the opening and the tour of Fire Station 1. It is a great fire station. It's something that we should be very proud about having back in the community on the northeast side of our city. Took the tour of our police department, and Christina, it was, like you said, it's phenomenal. My favorite part was the community room, and we will be able to hopefully share that with the community this July for our budget hearings. And I feel like that is going to be a new central location for the city of Boynton Beach, so that we are working together to make things better. Also on June 3rd, I attended a meeting with the U.S. representatives Hastings, Deutsch, and Frankel, and our own police chief was there to give his ideas for our Congress to make improvements. And I do believe there has been a bill passed in the House for police reforms. On June 6th, we had D-Day. We weren't able to host our normal events, but I just want to make sure that everyone is aware and to honor the veterans that were there. On the 9th, I took a tour of the high school and City Hall. And yes, I would like to thank my fellow commissioners, Christina and Justin. That stage is amazing. And what we are going to be able to do and bring the talent, the events and acts to our city because of having that indoor stage, it's something that we will have for another 100 years. I'm very pleased about that. On the June 10th, I had another conversation with Lois Frankel about the hot zones. If you look at the dashboard, 33435 is still considered a hot zone regarding the COVID-19. We are not over yet. Palm Beach County is still in phase 1, and I remind everyone to wash your hands, wear a mask, because this disease we do not have a vaccine for, and it is deadly. On the June 11th, I attended the Arts Commission meeting, and I made certain comments regarding the art on Fire Station 1 with WPTV, the Sun Sentinel, and the Coastal Star. On June 15th, I attended the tree canopy assessment held by the Green Infrastructure and our own sustainability coordinator, Rebecca Harvey. I really appreciated her goal of getting up to 20% tree canopy in Boynton Beach, which means I think 3,000 trees a year for a number of years. So it is not something that the cities can do on its own, and that's something that any of our residents who want to assist with the tree canopy, we will need to be working together. And today, I accepted 1,000 medical masks made in Taiwan from our partners over at the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office in Miami. The goal of these masks are for our first responders and also for all of our residents, so that when they come to any of our meetings, like the ones in July, that if they don't have a mask, that we can provide them with a mask. Also with summer camps, and I know that recreational leagues are going to be able to be starting again. So I feel that, you know, we can move forward as long as we play safe. I also want to address all of the emails that I've received in support of Debbie Coles-DeBay. You are all correct. She is an amazing person. She did a wonderful job with the arts in Boynton Beach because we did not have arts before Debbie. And now we have a internationally known arts program. That being said is that things change and the city manager has decided to move on in a different direction. And from what you heard from today, the commission supports our city manager in her decision. And finally, I'd like to give a shout out. Normally we'd be raising, you know, giving a standing ovation for Wally Majors. This is his last meeting, and someone who has really dedicated his life to the city of Boynton Beach. You know, I can't say enough good words about what he's done and how far we have come in the past 4 years dealing with our Parks and Recs department. And, you know, I'm looking forward to moving forward with, well, I'll let the city manager, but I'm really hoping that Casey Young gets the job because he's just been very supportive and just learning a lot. And I think we're in good hands with him. And that's kind of where, you know, to Wally Majors.
Right. Wally Majors.
Because,
34 years, Mayor. He served the city for 34 years.
4 years.
And I think, and that's kind of where what I'd like to see more with the city of the career path, that you can start with the lifeguard and move all the way up director
Absolutely.
of Parks and Rec. And I think that's it for my announcements or informational items. Is there anything else before we move on to announcements?
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to take a moment since I'm not on camera. Thank you, Wally, for all your work, and I would definitely put my 2 cents in to suggest Casey Young as well as his replacement. And quickly, I do want to also add that I'd like to request for the city manager to start giving us some live updates on COVID related numbers here within the city, especially in the 33435 area code, so that we can have information and be kept up to date, especially as we're seeing the surge come back. This is a scary situation for a lot of people, and I think it would be informational to have that. Would that be all right?
Absolutely, Commissioner. The Emergency Management Committee is now, we have calls on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and we do get data by the Department of Health Director, Dr. Alonso. So what I'll do is maybe once or twice a week, if you'd like me to, I'll go ahead and just, you know, we are one of the hot zones. We're probably about the second from the bottom in terms of being one of the hot zones. Jupiter is really experiencing some stuff, but I will provide that data to you. Is once a week okay? Do you want maybe twice a week? Well, you let me know.
Once a week is fine, but I'd like
do it on a Friday in my update, and then that will recap our week's calls.
Right, but I would also like for you to perhaps include it to the public as well during your city manager reports during our commission meeting.
Sure. Oh yeah, my pleasure. Yep.
Mayor Grant,
Yes.
did I just hear you say that we are going to open up our recreational programs? Did you just say that?
I don't think we've made a determination yet, but
Okay.
I believe that we will have an announcement soon. I said that Palm Beach County has opened up recreational leagues, and I got that information from Commissioner Weinroth.
Thank you.
And we are working with the Bulldogs. Casey's been in communication with them regarding getting the football season back up and going again in a modified fashion. They can do that. And we'll be reporting on our summer camps here in a minute.
Okay.
Well, how did you know they were calling me every 5 minutes?
And made their rounds because Casey's been talking to them.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And so now we'll move on. If there's no more informational items, we'll move on to announcements. Do we have Wendy Sartori Link? I have unmuted you and you are live.
Great, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk to you all. Wanted to just take a couple of minutes to talk about the elections that we have coming up. I know that they are front and center on a lot of people's minds, especially with things that are being are going on in the news. Of course, we have the COVID environment and everything else. And there are, as always, there are going to be some rumors out there that aren't true that I want to make sure that I can answer any questions that you all have. But we are at this point 63 days, 6 hours and 8 minutes from the election. And so in August, and we are working hard to prepare both with vote by mail and with having things ready for our election day and early voting days. So on and of course in Florida, voters do have all 3 methods to vote, and even with COVID, we will continue to have those. So a voter can do vote by mail, they can do early voting, and they can do election day. With vote by mail, we have been promoting that because it's of course, very safe. And with the COVID environment and people being concerned, and especially because we have a larger elderly population and people who could be adversely affected health-wise by being with crowds, we wanted to make sure that they knew that vote by mail is an option for everybody in Florida. Sometimes people think it's absentee voting, and it did used to be called absentee voting, and many years ago you had to have an excuse to do an absentee ballot. But in Florida, since the early 2000s, that hasn't been the case. And so everybody can do a vote by mail ballot. So we wanted to make sure people have that opportunity. We recently sent a mailer out to everybody who does not have a vote by mail request on file. And so it tells them how they can come back to us by sending us an email, by going onto our website, or there was a postage prepaid tear-off that they could send in to get the vote by mail ballot. Something that's really important for people to know is that can be just their backup plan if they'd like it to be. So having a vote by mail ballot sent to you does not mean you have to vote by mail. You can have it, and if as it gets closer to the election, you're feeling confident and that you'd like to either early vote or vote by mail or vote on election day, you can do that as long as you have not already mailed your vote back into us. So I want people to know that it can be a good safety net, because my goal is to make sure as many people can, get out to vote as possibly, whichever way they choose to do that. If they do choose to do vote by mail, it's postage prepaid. And that's really important for people to know, because this is the first year that's ever been the case. So that helps with accessibility. It also helps just with convenience for people not having to find the stamp. So it's really important to get that message out. Sometimes people also say they hear that, well, they don't count the vote by mail ballots unless it's close. And I know, all of you having run know better than that, and that we do the vote by mail ballots that have been received up until Monday, the day before the election. Those are reported in the very first tallies that go out just after 7. They're combined with the early voting tallies. And then the ones that we received on election day are being processed, checking voter history, and the signatures are being checked throughout the day and the evening, and then those are reported later that night. And then, of course, if a voter chooses to, they can go to early voting. We have added an additional early voting site just last week in East Delray. The City Commission of Delray allowed us to do that. So we had added 3 additional before, now we've added this 4th. So we have 4 new early voting sites for voters to help spread it out across the county. And we will be having those open for 14 days before the election from the hours of 10 to 7. And that's for the August 18th. Now, when we get into the general election, it'll be for the full 14 days, and that'll be from 7 to 7. So we'll have all of that. And then, of course, on election day for early voting, a voter does not have to go to any place close to their precinct. They can go to any early voting location, and they can check our website. Our website, pbcelections.org, allows the voter to go and check the wait times at the early voting locations to make it easy for them to determine which one's going to make the most sense for them to go to. And they also can track their ballot on the website. If they do send a vote by mail ballot in, under the My Status button, they're able to check whether or not we've received their ballot, whether it's been counted, if there are any issues with their signature. So that gives them a little bit more of a sense of control with all of that. And on election day, of course, they do have to vote in their own precinct. And we would encourage people to be checking our website as we do. If we do know that there will be a number, I think right now it looks like it'll be about 20 so far, that locations that have told us that they do not want us to come back there. So we are currently looking for replacements for those locations. They tend to be some of the 55-year-old and older communities, and those homeowners associations or groups have decided that they don't want to have voting on their premises. And so that's up to them. It's really for the convenience of their residents. So we will likely end up having those in schools because it's hard to find other places for those. So we are finalizing those, and if their polling place changes, we will be sending them a new voter information card. So they will know where they're supposed to go, and they'll be able to, like I said, also check our website. And for those that do choose to go to voting, we want to make them know that it's going to be as safe as we can make it. We have already acquired all of the PPE that we will need for August, and we have already ordered it for November as well. So for all of our poll workers, they will have masks, they will have gloves, they will have their temperatures taken with disposable thermometers before they begin working on election day, so we know they're not infecting themselves or voters. There will be gloves and masks available for a voter, should they so request. We will have hand sanitizing, whether it's the gel or hand sanitizing wipes available at every location, as well as the disinfecting wipes to wipe up after each voter. We also have the plexiglass shields that will be between the voter and the poll worker for as they're doing their check-in and receiving their ballot. So we put a lot of things in, of course, social distancing. We will have the poll workers spread out, as well as the voting booths will be spread out so that we will have the appropriate social distancing. Flip side of that, the people, of course, need to know is these places, not all of our locations are very big. So that may mean that we have fewer people in the polling location at any one time, which of course could mean that there will be lines. We will, at least within the 150-foot area that we can control, we will have those marked off with tape at every 6 feet to try to keep the social distancing in the lines. And we will have a deputy, a poll deputy, not a sheriff's deputy, but a poll worker deputy will be there to try to help keep the order in the line and to keep people at the social distancing. But again, we know that for some people, standing in line like that is scary for them or problematic. So we want to make sure that they know that. That's why we have early voting as an option. So really just want to, poll workers is something that we are really looking for. So if any of your residents are looking for a way to make money for a day or two, we have paid positions that we pay between $190 and $320 for a poll worker. They have to go to training, which would be 2 to 6 hour training, depending upon what their position is. And then it is a very long day. You know, they're there from, you know, before 6 in the morning until probably close to 8 at night. So it is a long day, but the people who do it find that the time goes quickly and that they enjoy it and they tend to come back. So we are very much encouraging poll workers. As you know, we have a lot of our poll workers fell into that vulnerable category, and we did have a lot of people cancel in March. So we are looking to replace all of those, but we're working with the school district. They just sent out an email to 40,000 juniors and seniors, making that available to them, because a lot of those juniors and seniors are very tech savvy and comfortable and would be able to fill a role. We also are working with the constitutional officers, the county, to be able to get new poll workers. We're working with the political parties. We are working with a lot of charities and not-for-profits to bring some of their volunteers in. So we're working very hard to get all new poll workers to replace those that won't be able to serve again. Because obviously we need the poll workers to keep all the locations open, and we want to have as many locations remain open as possible, because that will help keep the lines down. So with that, just wanted to give you just a quick update so that your voters will know that, you know, cybersecurity, of course, is still a concern. It's always out there, and we haven't forgotten about it just because it's not in the news. The bad actors haven't gone away, and in fact, they're trying to take advantage of all the COVID things to, you know, send more phishing emails and things. But we're staying on top of that, and we will be very vigilant and working with the FBI and the Homeland Security and cybersecurity navigators from the state to make sure that we have hardened our systems and are making sure that we have all the fixes that we need to along the way. So with that, I'll stop and ask you if you have any questions or anything I can answer for any of your citizens.
Thank you, Wendy. I do have two questions myself. I have received a couple of requests to open up Ezel Hester Center for the day of voting. I believe that is our early voting site.
It is. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people have requested to have that back as their site because it was a little difficult for them in, I think, the 2020 municipal election.
If that's something you'd like to open up, I'm happy to talk to the poll worker department about it.
Okay, and then the other thing is you mentioned positions available. Where does someone send their resume, or which website should they go to get more information?
They can go to pbcelections.org, and they can go right on to where to register there to be a poll worker. On the very top line, it's the fourth section in, says poll workers. They click on that and they can do it. They just need to be a registered voter in Palm Beach County.
All right, thank you. I'll ask the commission, do you have any other questions for our supervisor of elections?
Mayor, you actually
Yes.
already asked my question regarding how do people get to be a poll worker, so thank you for that. Wendy, I just want to thank you for all your hard work. I know these are challenging times and we have to adapt, and I think you're doing a fantastic job. So thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We've got a great team working hard.
And it was a great idea going after those younger people to be the next poll workers.
Yeah, well, we're hoping because jobs are harder for them to find during the summer too, that they may need a little bit of extra money, or for some of them, they need community service hours. And
Absolutely.
so this is another way for them to get those.
Yes, Commissioner Hay.
Wendy, I just wanted to reiterate and make sure that if you change precinct location, that it's out early enough, because that's one of the greatest complaints I get. People don't know where to go. So when is your deadline for that relative to the August timeframe?
So we are trying to get all of those resolved within the next few weeks. Ideally, we'd like to have everything in place by early July. If something should happen and somebody changes, we really can't do it. We try to, you know, there would have to be an absolute emergency that we'd have to go to the state for if it's within the last 2 weeks. But, you know, of course, our goal is we want to get it out early so that voters can, we can publish it on our website, and then we can also get the new voter information card to the voters so that they'll know. But yeah, our goal is that we will have locked down all of our sites by early July.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Yes, Commissioner Romulus.
Hi, Wendy. Just question for you. Did we lose any voting sites in Boynton Beach based off of what you said about 55 and older communities asking to not have precincts in their location?
You know, I have a list. I need to look it up real quick. How about, I promise you, I will, if I could, I can get back to you about that. I don't know off the top of my head whether, I do know there were some in Delray. I don't know for sure about Boynton, and I know there were some in Boca. So I have to double check that.
Okay, my only concern is that I know we have a large 55 and older community all along our East Coast here in Boynton. I just want to make sure that they still have access. So if for any reason we've lost any, I'd love to partner up with you and maybe have the city manager assist with finding other alternative sites that are still within the federal highway corridor or something similar.
Oh, sure. Yes. No, our goal is absolutely, if we do have to move a site because a location has told us that we can't go there, then we want to find something within the same precinct, if at all possible. And if not, then it would just be one precinct over. But we are committed to making sure that we have as many as we can have, especially if we're part of the reason we're working so hard on getting new poll workers is so that we can continue to have enough sites.
Okay. And then my last question for you is, how have you been doing in terms of getting language facilitators, individuals to help people who may not speak English, Spanish, and Creole predominantly?
So for the Spanish, if it's a site that has, I think it's more than 10% of self-identified registered Hispanic voters, then we have a Hispanic poll worker that speaks Spanish that will be at that location. Or if for whatever reason we're not able to have one, or if that person calls in sick that morning, we do have a language service that we've contracted with that actually I think has over 100 languages that will be available to that person. And for the Creole voters, we on our express vote, which is one of our new pieces of equipment, and it's actually fantastic, much easier to use than the old equipment, and people like it. They use it even if just because they like it. And we don't require it to be somebody with disabilities or with a language barrier. But we do have the full ballot is in English, Spanish, and Creole on that piece of equipment, both in writing and verbally, so they can listen to it as well as read it. And so that's what we have, and that there are signs telling the voters that both in English, Spanish, and in Creole.
And last question, for those who do not, who are deaf, do you have accommodations for them as well?
Right. The express vote does have if they're deaf, they can read it. Right. So the express vote has their ability for them to read it on their, and they can blow it up, go slow, take their time, and we will have poll workers who will take them to do it if they want to have a little extra time and to be able to work through it.
Okay, great to know. Thank you for making those accommodations, and I look forward to getting the information from you regarding if we've gotten any changes in our precincts here in Boynton.
Absolutely. I'll send that to you. If not tonight, if I have to, I'll update it. If I don't have the updated one today, I'll get the update and send it to you at the latest tomorrow.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else have questions?
All right. Thank you so much, Wendy.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. Our next announcement is for fiscal year 2021 budget workshop dates and times.
Can we do that, Mayor?
I got it. Our budget process is underway. The budget workshops are scheduled to be held July 13th to the 15th, 2020 in the Police Station Community Room, 2100 High Ridge Road, Monday, July 13th, 2020 at 5 p.m., Tuesday, July 14th, 2020 at 10 a.m., and then if need be, Wednesday, July 15th, 2020 at 2 p.m. The Commission adopts a preliminary fire assessment resolution and a tentative millage rate resolution at these workshops. Did I miss anything? All right, excellent. Yes.
Just to clarify, these meetings will still be accessible to the public. Will we be able to live stream them as we're doing them?
No, we won't. We're just going to be barely getting into the building at PD, so we won't have that set up to be able to do that. But they will obviously be open to the public, and we alter the time so whether you work or not, you'll have access to be able to participate.
So I think that's something we might have a discussion about on July 7th, just to continue, with the go-to webinar. Do we each bring our own laptops so that if people want to have a live stream of this, that we have the two microphones possibly, that's something that we might want to pursue. Because I think that, the fact that we have 71 attendees, we all know that it's not just city staff. So I think that's something that we can hopefully look into at next meeting, how to continue the virtual meeting along with our physical meeting.
Correct. I would echo that, Mayor, because I feel like now that we've started this, I don't want to just abruptly stop it and go back to our regular way until the new city hall is up and running or something. I'd like to figure out a way to keep this going, because I know a lot of individuals have told us that this is their first time being able to participate now that it's able to be, live streamed. They can watch it on their phone or on their laptops at home.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. And our next is an announcement of Limited Summer Camp 2020. Will this be Wally's last announcement?
Actually, Casey's going to do it.
All right, but I still want to hear from Wally before he goes, if he can.
Let him do an impromptu 15-minute speech. No.
Yep. All right.
He is on because I texted him earlier. So Casey, I don't know who you want first.
Casey is self-muted, so if you would like to unmute yourself. Oh. Yep.
Did he get it?
Good evening.
Yep, we can hear you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Casey Young, Recreation and Parks Assistant Director. I'm here to announce the Fab 5 Days of Summer Camp program. As restrictions are being revised and the community returns to work, the Recreation and Parks Department will offer summer programming for ages 5 to 12 weekdays at the Carolyn Sims Center starting on June 29th through August 7th. Campers will participate in traditional camp activities, including pool time at Denson Pool. Staff will conduct all activities while following CDC guidelines, including social distancing. There are limited spots available due to smaller group sizes. Registration starts this Friday, June 19th. All registered participants will receive a water bottle at the start of camp. For more information or to register, contact the Recreation and Parks Department at 561-742-6650. Visit our website at wemakelifefun.com or follow Boynton Beach Rec on all social media outlets as we return to Make Life Fun in Boynton Beach. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Casey. My question is that I know that we have limited spots for our own summer camp. What I'm hoping is that we don't turn away people that want to have summer camp in the city, that if we can create a list and hopefully find partners to work with them. I know when we ended after school care, we partnered with the YMCA. So I think that's something that you can ask if we fill up with our summer camps, that we don't turn any of our youth away, that we try to do what we can to help find them an alternative.
Okay.
And does anyone else have any questions for Casey before we move?
I do.
Yeah.
Mayor.
Yes.
Who was first?
Vice Mayor, you can go ahead first.
Thank you. I'm not sure if this is a question for Casey or Lori, but could you talk about what changes you're making to make sure that it's safer for the kids?
Yes. We have implemented some safety protocols for camp. Again, following along the CDC guidelines, we will do temperature checks for campers, limiting the parents' access to the building, just to limit the number of people who come into the building. So we will do a temperature check. Also, we're added hand sanitizing stations throughout the building for campers to keep their hands sanitized, along with adding hand washing activities within our activity schedule. Also, face coverings. Staff will wear face coverings throughout the day And we will also recommend for the campers to wear face masks as well.
Thank you.
And yes, do we have anyone else from the city commission?
Yeah,
Yes, one other
Okay,
quick
so,
question. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, Commissioner Katz, then Commissioner Hay.
thank you. Yeah, I would just add that in reference to any third parties operating potential camps on our premises, I would only be in support of that if the city ensured that every employee of those third parties and every participant of those third parties programs, signed some sort of legal document that states that they will not hold the city accountable. Because if we operate a summer camp, that's one thing. There are employees, we can control the conditions. But if a child were to get sick because of a failure of a third party to properly, utilize the CDC recommendations, I shudder to think that by trying to be good stewards of the public property, we allow a third party on there, they do something wrong, and then now the city gets sued. I would just want to make sure that legal crafts something that ironclad protects the taxpayers from any third party participant or employee from suing us if they got sick under these circumstances. That's it.
Yeah, and my request is not necessarily for the city facilities, but facilities within the city. Commissioner Hay?
Just a couple of clarification questions. How many kids are we per adults? Are we like saying 2 adults for every so many kids, or what? How does that work?
Our counselor to camper ratio will be two counselors for every 8 campers. So the max for the camp will be 32 participants.
32. Now,
Yes.
based on, and maybe Wally have to, based on last year's numbers, Casey, we anticipate being able to accommodate, or it's just going to be a first come first serve. How do you anticipate maybe 50% lost, 75% lost, or what do you think? We're going to lose any at all?
As far as participants registering for camp, yeah, it will definitely be limited this year. Our max initially was going to be 74 campers, registered participants. And again, now we're down to 32. So it will be somewhat smaller.
Okay, 32. First come, first serve.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wally's
All right.
available to say a word, Mayor, if you'd like him to.
Absolutely. Wally, you have the floor.
Well, I was just going to add that we are giving those that already registered previously to get the first shot at registering, and then residents will then be obviously allowed to register prior to any non-residents. And we're just glad to have the opportunity to provide this service. We know that it's an essential service, and a lot of people rely on this service to be able to get back to work. So the fact that we are able to do it, although we're going to proceed with due caution, it's just something that we appreciate having the opportunity to serve the community.
All right. Thank you. And yes, if there was a plaque, I would definitely be handing you a plaque right now. And I'm glad that you will still be involved with the city in your retirement.
We're not letting them go that easily.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Leave them on a break after 34 years, for crying out loud.
I'll be volunteering.
All right. Thank you. And so now we'll move on to item D. Vice Mayor Pensurga, you have a census competition.
Yes, I was approached by Commissioner Amoroso of Lake Worth Beach and Commissioner Lambert of West Palm Beach, and they have been planning and organizing an intercity competition to get as many people as possible to complete the census, particularly populations that are normally or historically undercounted. So those that are Spanish speaking and Creole speaking and so forth. And so this is a friendly, fun competition, and it is going to be based on the percent increase, right? Because many cities have already started. And so to make it fair, it's the percent increase from the time the competition begins to the end, which is about October 31st, if I have that correct. And the idea is the city that wins, and I hope it's us, they will be presented with a trophy by the commissioners of all the other cities wearing that city's shirt, hat, and whatnot. So they're with their name on it. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to just increase that count. We know that it's so important for as many people to be counted because if I remember correctly, it's about $1,600 in federal funding per person that's counted that goes back into our schools, into our fire stations, and all kinds of services. And that's a good thing, and everybody wins. And this is a great way to do that. There is going to be a press conference, and the timing is unfortunate, but the press conference is going to be tomorrow, and tomorrow morning at 8:15 at Bryant Park in Lake Worth. And they are inviting all large cities, and I hope that we can be a part of it and get our numbers and win.
All right. Okay. So
Got
I
my
guess,
vote.
yeah. So I guess we'll have Lori, if we can have Laura give us an update of the census. I don't know when the next quarterly update is, but
I think the next meeting, yeah, we're
okay.
scheduled to.
So
Right.
then we'll get an update and see how we're
Right.
doing and how we can move forward with the competition.
Mayor, since you brought up Laura, I know the other benefit to this competition is that it's an opportunity for us to share and exchange best practices. You know, what's working in Royal Palm, maybe we could adopt some and they can learn from us as well. So it's a win-win all around.
All right, excellent. All right.
Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner Romulus.
not to dictate our employees' whereabouts, but perhaps Laura could attend that press conference tomorrow just to kind of meet some people. What are you thinking time?
If she's available, I would welcome that. I think that's a great thing.
Yeah.
And she can talk about what we're doing already, if she's available, or maybe somebody else from staff.
Yeah, just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Eleanor
Excellent.
plans on it, I think.
All right. And last, we have introduction of our interim fire chief, Chief Carter. We got him.
Yeah, he's
muted.
on standby, and John's going to put up
Yeah,
flyer.
Ray Carter's audio has been unmuted.
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
If you can speak closer to the microphone.
Sure. Is that better?
A little bit.
Okay.
Use your preaching voice.
I'll use my preacher voice. How about that?
There you go. There you go.
Okay. Mayor Grant, Commissioners, Lori, thanks for allowing us to put up this little public service announcement regarding the upcoming holiday or anniversary of our nation's independence on the 4th of July. You know, we want to encourage the general public not to necessarily use consumer fireworks, but I know they're going to probably choose to do that given the fact that with COVID-19 and being locked down for the last 2.5 months, our folks are going to want to get out and celebrate our 4th of July. Again, keeping in mind, last year alone, there was 19,500 fires caused by fireworks. Just the month around the 4th of July, there was 9,100 fireworks related injuries that visited emergency rooms across the country. And of those 9,100 injuries, about 1/3 of them were to children under the age of 15 as a result of them handling consumer fireworks. Our preference would be that you don't use the fireworks, but we know that they're going to be out there in the community. If you choose to use them, be careful, be mindful of those around you in your neighborhoods, and again, protect everybody as best possible. Again, one other thing that's a consideration that isn't on the public service announcement, please no gunfire into the air in celebration of the 4th of July. It seems like every year we have one or two incidents where that occurs, somebody gets injured, and that can be very, very deadly to those involved. And last but not least, I'd like you to also be considerate of your pets and the pets of your neighbors, because they're not as interested, your pets are not as interested in going outside and celebrating the 4th of July by watching things go up in the air and explode. They get scared by that. So be considerate of them as well.
All right.
Any
Thank you
questions of the commission?
No,
I just want to make a
not for
comment.
me, but Vice Mayor Pensurga, would you like to begin?
Yes. Thank you, Chief Carter. I have not had a chance to meet you yet in person, but I can tell I already like you. A lot of people don't talk about pets or veterans, and we all enjoy fireworks, but you are absolutely right. For them, it is extremely traumatic, and unfortunately, for many people, they're blowing fireworks not just on the 4th of July, but on 1, 2, 5, 6, and 7, all throughout the week, and it is extremely, it's traumatizing. I think that's the right word, and I've had numerous residents email me and call me about that, and so I appreciate you saying everything you just said, and I look forward to meeting you in person.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes, Commissioner Hay.
I concur with what Commissioner Ty Pensarga just said. I just like to welcome you back there, Ray Carter. It's looking forward to having an opportunity to sit and talk with you. This is Commissioner Woodrow Hay.
I'm sure we'll have a couple of chats, Commissioner, and I look forward to it too. All right. It's good to be back, and I'm excited for the work in front of me. It's going to be challenging, but we're gonna do fine. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Anything from Commissioner Katz or Romulus? Seeing none.
Just to say welcome aboard, that's all, or temporarily, even if it's just temporarily, welcome back aboard.
Thank you.
All right. Now we will move on to public audience. Individual speakers will be limited to 3-minute presentations. Please state your name and address before you begin. And John, do we have people? Can you please make an announcement of how to speak for public comments?
Mayor Grant, I have just enabled the raise hand feature and then also the questions option. So public audience, public participation can be accommodated using either one of those two items on the GoToWebinar interface. The easiest one is just to click on the hand icon, and that will signify that you would like to speak, and we will unmute your audio in turn as they are listed in the system.
All right. So I see that Susan Oyer raised her hand first. So we will unmute you and give you the floor first.
Thank you, Susan. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, Susan Oyer, 140 Southeast 27th Way. I have several things to say tonight. First of all, Wally, thank you. I'm going to miss you dearly. It's been a great pleasure working with you and having you as part of our city for so long. So enjoy your retirement, but I know I'll see you around. Second, is Casey going to be replacing him? Do we know? Did I miss that part of the meeting?
No, that's a decision for the city manager, and we're in support of Casey, though.
Oh, okay, well, so am I. So hopefully he'll get the job. Next up, regarding budget hearings, since I'm one of the only 2 or 3 who ever show up, and now I see Commissioner Hay is back on the commission, so I'll be sitting in the audience alone. Please save me a place for the budget hearings. Third, I would like to say I just lost my 3rd friend in the last about 24 hours ago to COVID. So please take this seriously. I see in the Palm Beach Post, they're looking at making mandatory masks again in Palm Beach County because we've now broken 3,000 cases today in the last 24 hours in the state of Florida. Please take this seriously. The last 2 of my friends who've died, and it was 2 brothers in the last couple of days, We're both young and very fit, former military. So this is, not what everyone thinks it is. So take this seriously. And I would very much like to finish with Fight Club is back in my neighborhood. And I certainly hope that you guys are doing something about it, because I'm sure you're sick of me emailing about the problems with the Fight Club at the end of my street in Betty Thomas Park. So I hope police is doing something. I hope the commission's doing something. I hope Rec and Parks is doing something, because while I don't normally hear it, because I have really great windows, my neighbors all come bang on my door and let me know that they're hearing it. We go outside and you can hear down the street the screaming and hollering and all the goings on from this Fight Club that is decided to make my neighborhood its home. So I hope we will be resolving this soon. And I think that's all I had to say. But Wally, it's been a great pleasure, and enjoy your retirement. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. The next person with their raised hand is Bertrand Joubert. And you have been unmuted, and we will go through everybody who's raised their hand, followed by anybody who asks a question.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is, my artist name is Beju. I'm an artist who immigrated to the US 24 years ago, and today my public artwork can be seen around the world. I met Debbie Coles-DeBay as I was applying to one of my first shows in Florida in 2015. I've kept a very close relationship, professional relationship with her since. During the organizations of these events, I found Debbie's leadership and understanding of the artist and their sometimes non-conventional ways formidable and unmatched from my previous experiences with other curators. Her calm and charismatic leadership has always been able to manage the most difficult situation. Debbie gets it. As an immigrant and military veteran, I am grateful for Debbie's curiosity and conciliatory attitude towards all communities, and I have often witnessed her tolerance and innovative yet firm leadership. My experience with Debbie proves that it is an understatement to claim that her dedication to her job goes beyond her attributes for the better good of us all. When learning that Debbie had been laid off, I was stunned and immediately attempted to understand the accusation that led to her termination. After gathering much information for the past week from others, I came to realize the unfortunate misjudgment she has become the victim of. I publicly want to confirm that never in my relationship with Debbie have I ever felt the slightest hint of disrespect for any community. I will add that much to the contrary, her approach to others has always been the most civil and courteous while promoting every community's differences, and that includes me as an immigrant. I wish for the city to reconsider their decision. My last words, which I hope will help in your reconsiderations of Debbie's status, expose what I believe illustrates Debbie's unfortunate decision to tolerate the alteration of the artwork and what its logical outcome should be. A decision based on overlooking a subject potentially important to others and that lacks intent to hurt is forgivable, especially when it was made under pressure from another powerful entity. I say these last words in support of Commissioner Remoulas, who suggests that a milder sanction should be implemented. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Our next speaker is Cheryl Murente. You are unmuted.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Cheryl Muriente, 1510 Mediterranean Road East. I am here also to speak in support of hopefully reinstating Mrs. Coles-DeBay back to her job. I just wanted to express that my relationship to her as a professional public artist as well as I'm a board member of the AIPP board of the County of Palm Beach, just to disclose that. But I'm here today as a professional acquaintance for her and just representing myself. I have known Debbie since 2014, and in my past communications with her in terms of professional work that we've tried to accomplish through writing grants, both to the Knight Foundation and Bloomberg grants, we have always been looking at projects that use art as a tool to communicate with disenfranchised communities. And I would like to just read a few words from some of the grants that we have tried to put together. Unfortunately, we haven't received them, but we have always been dealing with the following themes: making public space a welcoming place, making it welcoming to multi-generational diversity and all-inclusive, having citizen ownership, amplifying the community voice, letting them be heard, making a connection of an edge to the communal space, bringing stories and words to the central area of the town square, and undoing urban gentrification and rebuilding community connections. It was extremely difficult and shocking to read a post on Facebook from the city of Boynton Beach announcing the termination of Mrs. Cole's Dove for what seems to me to be an unfair decision that has been taken hastily. Knowing how AIPP decisions are made and the position she held, it would seem that if an investigation was made, you might find that the process involves a committee that makes decisions and that an AIPP director's role is to facilitate the meeting. As a facilitator, she would be, in this case, the messenger to then bring the committee's decision to the dais and for the public to weigh in. Whatever poor decisions were made by a few, this is being used against, I believe, the facilitator and not the actual decision makers. I hope that you find that there might be space to bring her back, as she has done so much to put the city of Boynton Beach on the map of the arts, and that an investigation might be the best way to understand what was that, I guess, unfair treatment that was done with the mural, obviously. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Deborah McGran. And you're unmuted.
Thank you for the opportunity to address the commission. I too was shocked at the news of the termination of Debbie Cole's Dove. And while I don't live in Boynton or Palm Beach, I am not aware of the details that led to this unimaginable turn of events, except for the news report. And I'm here in support of Debbie and her voluminous body of work for the city and the Art in Public Places program. I met Debbie Cole's Dove in 2010 when I joined the Florida Association of Public Art Professionals at the suggestion of a mutual colleague. Debbie served on the board, and her leadership lent credibility to the statewide scope and influence of the association's growth. My community of Port St. Lucie had launched its public art program, and I was the chairman of its advisory board. Boynton Beach was always seen as a leader in public art programming in Florida. I know Debbie, also known as Debbie from Boynton, to be an incredible advocate for the arts, and her leadership has always been remarkable and without a doubt sterling. Her service to the Arts Commission, the Community Redevelopment Board, and the city came from her heart. The host of projects she has facilitated is like orchestrating a symphony where the staff, planners, developers, architects, artists, and design professionals are integral to keeping the working parts in harmony throughout inception, development, negotiations, and completion. The dedication and knowledge spilled over to other cities. The association members benefit from the Art in Review, showcasing public art throughout the state in a monthly online update. Debbie often contributed ideas, spurred discussion, and advised colleagues on the ins and outs of the public art process. Boynton's Avenue of the Arts initiative made the area flourish, defining a corridor that was transformed by color and creativity. It became a stepping stone to the possibilities that eventually marked a rise in the city's cultural landscape, providing an economic outlet for artists while adding to the permanent collection. Debbie's outreach brought visual art to city facilities through rotating exhibits like the Swing Space that made potentially blighted empty storefronts more appealing, giving artists a platform for their work. What she's most noted for is the International Kinetic Art Exhibit and Symposium. Debbie promoted this innovative display of unique sculptures at Art Palm Beach, where I met some of the guest artists. I know there must be an abundance of plans in various stages of development in Boynton, and that is why Debbie's firing is so disturbing. Boynton Beach is on the verge of branding itself and implementing so much for the future. It is astounding to believe that Debbie won't be part of it. We often consult with each other on best practices in the industry, and Debbie's experience is vibrant and forward-thinking. I regard her as one of the most accomplished professionals in the state. Her work developing the City of Boynton Beach's public art collection and producing the temporary exhibits are the result of her commitment and dedication. Having Debbie as a colleague has been nothing but positive. I'm speaking in support of a person I know as a consummate professional whom, in my opinion, would not intentionally do anything to discredit the city or compromise her ethical standards. Her goal has always been to provide solid programming designed to enrich the community which she's so connected and build bridges that spur economic growth. This unfortunate situation has left many of us in the public art administrative field totally devastated. We cannot fathom how a set of circumstances came about to have someone like Debbie fired. It's just unthinkable. Her achievements spark energy among other public art managers, and her influence and advice is immeasurable. One can only imagine that somewhere along the line there must have been a misunderstanding or miscommunication of epic proportions. To think that a long-time dedicated employee needed to be fired in the heat of the moment without a hearing or opportunity to present her case is harsh and drastic. It is my hope that my input can make a difference and convince the city manager to reinstate Debbie. Please reconsider your decision. The last 14 years have been prosperous and exciting under her direction, not only for Boynton Beach, but for nearby towns. I don't need to list the accomplishments that have put the city of Boynton Beach on the map as far as community development, but the recent Town Square Cultural Center, the Heritage K-pop Tree, and renovated Old Historic High School has caused much positive energy, not only in Boynton, but statewide. It's my hope that a reconciliation is in the works and Debbie Coles-Gilbert will return to the work she loves in the city she loves. Please give this gifted professional the opportunity to serve the citizens of Boynton Beach once again. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Amanda Johnson. You are unmuted.
Hi, it's not Amanda, it's James Mill. And I'm the owner of Amanda James Gallery. And I just want to go on record to say thank you to Debbie Coles-Gilbert for doing a phenomenal job bringing art to our community and to our city. Whenever we worked with Debbie, she was always very professional and courteous. Every time we worked with her, she always had the community's best interest at heart. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Carlene Paul. Let me unmute. You're self-muted. Carlene Paul. All right. One more.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, I'd like to say good afternoon to the mayor and members of the council, city manager. My name is Colleen Paul. I'm a new resident of Boynton Beach. I don't know if I should talk about my issue right now, but since it's public speaking, I want to bring to your attention that I had a meeting with Mr. Templar about some concern that I had in the city. I have to say that both Mr. Templar and Mr. Pierre met with me. They saw my issue. Mr. Pierre was very professional, and I want the city and the mayor, I want to thank the mayor for referring me to my county commissioner as it relates to the accident on 5th and Seacrest. I did an email on that, and I want to assure the staff of the great city of Boynton Beach that when you have a concern and you get in contact with the right people, your issues are solved. And I want to let my commissioner and my county commissioner know that I really appreciate the fact that Mr. Temple and Mr. Pierre came and they saw my issue and my issue was taken care of. And I want to thank my commissioner for interfering and referring my case to the right person, and my issues has been solved. Thank you.
Thank you for coming back and letting us know we're doing our jobs. We really appreciate that. Our next,
Carlene.
yes.
Mayor, I just want to quickly say thank you, Carlene, and again, welcome to our neighborhood. Welcome to our community. This is the welcome we always wanted you to have. Welcome.
Yeah. All right. Next, we have Erwin Sanias. So I'll go unmute. Erwin, are you there?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. Good evening, everybody. Erwin Sines, 203 Northeast 12th Ave. A couple things. One, I just wanted to take a second to just bring to the forefront this Friday is Juneteenth. For those who don't know, I'm just gonna take a quick second just to educate folks on what it's about and what it is. So, I mean, I know I was just hearing earlier the chief speak about July 4th, which obviously was the 1776 being free from Britain. But during that time, at that time, there were still enslaved human beings at that time. So for African Americans, Black folks in the United States, 1865, which was actually like 2 years after I think Abraham Lincoln had the Emancipation Proclamation. Obviously, they didn't have email back then and social media, so it took a little while to get the message. But so 2 years after that, 1865, June 19th, 1865, that's when a general in Texas, I think his last name was Granger, I forget exactly what it was, delivered the message saying that the enslaved human beings, he delivered a message that the enslaved human beings were free. And so that's why Juneteenth, this June 19th, is recognized as the actual independence for Black Americans and those enslaved human beings being free. So for those who didn't know, things like that. I mean, even myself, I thought I was pretty smart, went through school here, born here, went to school here, went to college, and didn't know nothing about that till my late 20s. I'm 35 now, so maybe others may not have known about it. So I just wanted to put that on the forefront, what that means, and just during this time, just kind of taking a minute just to educate folks on that. And lastly, wanted to know what was the current situation or the current update on the mural. I believe it was by today that it was said that the mural will be fixed. I don't know if there is what's going on with that or whatever. And I know that there was, and I hear the folks before me who were speaking. I can't speak to any of the individuals who I guess we're part of the fallout of basically a community being really disappointed and really upset by, for good reason, um, and really felt disrespected. So, but I don't have any personal thing towards anybody involved. I don't know them. I don't know what it is. I just see it, I guess, people in leadership, you know, having to be removed from leadership positions because of decisions that were made, but I'm not, inside all that. But anyway, long story short, just wanted an update on when is that mural going to be fixed? When are the faces of Latasha Clemens and there was another person that was removed? When will they be put back on there? I thought it was going to be supposed to be fixed by today. I'm not sure what's going on with that, and so just wanted a quick update. Appreciate everyone's time.
Thank you, Erwin. Lori, do you have an answer?
Yes, originally we had, if the mural was to be put right back up, we were able to get it fabricated by June 15th. So that's the date we had initially put out there as a goal to get that done. But the Art Commission met last Thursday. They did decide to put the original mural back up. There was discussion, though, about getting permission from those members or those employees or people in the murals, not only just employees, there are children also, getting permission from the individuals to ensure that they still want to be in the mural. So legal has prepared a letter that Nicole Blanks, our assistant in the public art program, is going to reach out to those folks and get permissions. And once we get all of that information back, we'll take that back to the Art Commission and let them know what the response is. And then I think the fabrication part of it doesn't take very long, but it's a matter of whether or not it will require further changes or not, if anybody doesn't want to be in it. So we're waiting to find that out now.
All right, and thank you. Our next person with their hand raised, we have Eric Merrill. and you are unmuted.
Hi, this is Ann Miller
Yes.
and on Eric's computer, but I have
Okay.
known Debbie Coles-Jobay for more than 10 years, and I have seen the vast improvements that she's done to Boynton Beach and the city with all the art work throughout the city. I've been a volunteer for all the art shows in the city, especially the kinetic art shows, which are international, and Debbie made that happen. So they were brought to the city by Debbie. Debbie introduced me to many established and emerging artists, one being Conrad Piquel. And I would not have known about him, and I lived in the city for 20 years before I found this information out. But she brought art to everybody, every young and old alike. Conrad Piquel, he's famous for his stained glass throughout the city and area churches. She facilitated tourists through the city to learn about world-renowned artists. Because of this introduction, I recently funded the donation of an original Conrad Piquel artwork to the city for the grand opening to be somewhere in City Hall. And it was because of Debbie and through Debbie that I gave this contribution. In addition, I also sponsored a program donating funds to the recent 2020-50 Artist Relief COVID Pandemic Project last month. And it's because of Debbie and her heart trying to get everybody and trying to help everybody, no matter what the race, creed, color, disability. Debbie pulled people together. She got people to Boynton Beach. And Boynton Beach is not on the maps, but because of Debbie and the statues that she's brought, she is a powerhouse, and she has put Boynton Beach on the map because of the arts that she's brought here and the international people. I recognize the efforts Debbie has gone above and beyond for the community. I'm a patron of the arts. I've purchased many of the artworks by the artists. And I just would like you to reconsider. We all make a mistake in our life, and be the first to cast a stone for making a mistake. And I don't care about the details, but anyway, she has a historic background, a strong background, and she does care about the city. So anyway, I just wanted to say in my name, just for the record, that Debbie Coles-Jobay is a powerhouse for the city. That's it.
Thank you, Ann.
Oh.
All right. Our next hand raised, we have Rolando Barrero. You are unmuted.
Hi, my name is Rolando Chang Barrero. For the record, I live at 1021 Avon Road, West Palm Beach. That is the home address of the Florida Arts Association also. And why that's important, it's because it is the organization that manages and runs the Boynton Beach Art District and all of the artists there for almost 10 years now. My experience with this whole thing is very confusing. And I just realized that the mural, as Debbie presented it to the city, will be going back up exactly how she presented it to the city before other parties decided to change it. Ironic. Food for thought. Now, the players that changed it were given the opportunity to resign. While she was fired and humiliated in public, and I don't have a hair on my tongue, okay? Debbie will not work in this field again, tainted with this cloud, okay? And I think that's anathema. And I think it's further insulting that you put the mural back up exactly how she was presenting it before the changes, having her being fired. Does that not seem awkward? Okay? And everybody knows that I am not one to accept anything that comes close to appearing racist or discriminating. I come from a mixed family and I grew up in the inner city being challenged on everything. And at 13, I came out of the closet and got challenged for that. I've learned to laugh about it and say that I'm a hybrid because I don't want to use all the racial slurs that are attached to my ethnicities. And I have only seen Debbie working in her office, on the street, with construction workers, day in and day out. And then at night, she will get in a borrowed car, if need be, and go to art fairs and scout more work to bring it to the city. Spends endless hours on the phones with people, with me, making sure that everybody is represented, from the homeless people that need to work by her suggestion through Sherry Johnson's program that serve as our vendors at our art walks, to making sure she reviews all the murals, making sure that people of color are represented in areas that they need to have a voice, and other places where we have all these exhibitions, not only the 50 major art and public places projects that she has facilitated in the last 10 years, but aside from that, the many hundreds of exhibitions and charrettes and talks and discussions that have been held in the library that have included everybody from everything, from photography discussions to eco arts to political work to everything, including everybody and giving everybody a voice. And I think that this gesture is anathema. And furthermore, I think it really stinks to have the original mural that she presented back up, having her fired because she listened to someone who asked for changes, that was another person in power, that was the one that was the final voice, and he gets to retire. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And so we do have a question, and it seems like it's a comment that I will read into the record from Manon Sander, that they state Manon Sandler, 2109 Pleasant Drive, North Palm Beach, Florida, 33408. It came to my attention that Debbie Coles DeBay was recently fired over the removal of the faces of Latasha Clemens and Glenn Joseph from a mural. I had to read the article twice because I found it unbelievable to see Debbie's name connected to racism. Debbie and I have known each other on a professional level for years. She in her position as an art manager, me as artist who frequently has been invited to participate in arts events and shows in Boynton Beach. The latest being art in public places with the intention of conveying a message of hope during these trying pandemic times. The Debbie I've gotten to know and to value highly has worked tirelessly to unite the community through art. So many of us artists are grateful that Debbie brought our work in front of people's eyes while making Boynton more beautiful, welcoming, and interesting through artist visual messages. I find it really hard to believe that Debbie would choose any work of art or would order changes to a work of art with the intention to make a statement of racism and division. The thought of someone of Debbie's caliber and mindset being accused of racism is preposterous, and her firing is despicable after all she has done for the city of Boynton Beach. I know it's a very touchy subject in the light of recent events, but I urge you to get to the real root of the problem and to reconsider her firing. We had another question asked about from Dana Donate. I'm going to unmute you, Dana, if you're still there, because you were asking how to speak, and it seems that you're unable to find the hand to raise to speak. So you're currently self-muted. If you would like to speak, you're more than welcome, but you'll have 10 seconds to unmute before we move on. All right. She asks how to unmute. Click on the microphone to the left of where your name is for attendee.
Mayor Grant, it does appear that her microphone is now unmuted.
Yep. Dana, can you hear us? Dana, I don't know if your microphone is working or if you have a microphone. Yes. She asks if that she can hear us, and we cannot hear her. And you've self-muted. And now it says your audio is off. And so we're going to have to move on. We did receive another question from Rolando Barrera. Will the documents and communications that led to the changes in the timeline be made public? These documents, I believe, are part of the public record, and a public records request you can make to find out any information you would like. All right. We have received another question comment from Stacy Rybuck. Hello, I too have known Debbie for many years. In fact, over 20 years, Debbie has been a true inspiration to me through the years and has always been supportive to myself as a local artist and the city of Boynton. I hope the city of Boynton Beach will reconsider their decision to remove her from the art and public places and positions so she can continue to support our artists in our city. Thank you. All right. And I think that is it for public questions and comments. Nope, we got another one from Barbara Lentz. Let me see if I can read it. I have known Debbie for almost 20 years professionally and personally. I own a business in Boynton Beach. I feel this is extremely unfair what happened to Debbie, and I wish you to reconsider. Debbie is far from being a racist person. She brings community together. Please reconsider, Barbara Lentz. And then I receive a request from Dwayne Roberts. We will unmute you. Pastor Dwayne, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you for raising your hand.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out whether I was raising or lowering it. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I just want to allude to the beginning. I know there was much kudos given to Chief Gregory with regards to marching, and obviously I'm very connected with how do we take our community from just protesting to actual policy change. So as it relates to the Racial Equity Task Force, just trying to figure out how I have a huge list of things to consider. Just wondering if the task force, when is that going to be developed? How do we go about being engaged in that? Because I definitely want to partner with the city, the police force to bring about the right reforms and change so that because I think our community is going to want to see what's next. I think we could definitely gather, pray, build community trust, but I do definitely think that they're going to want to see changes announced. So just looking forward to that and how to be involved to help support that effort.
The simple answer is that at our next meeting will be an agenda item, and that way we will open it up for public comments there for everyone to speak to see how the city can move forward with the racial equity. And the other aspect of it is being a part of our public workshop, our budget workshops, so that we fund the racial equity as it needs to be.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and next we have Ricky Leiter. I will be unmuting you. And it says you're self-muted.
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening. I live in Port St. Lucie, and I'm the publisher of the Ricky Report. I've known and worked closely with Debbie Coles-Dobay for the past decade. Our publication covers the visual art scene from Melbourne, Florida to Miami, Florida, and we enjoy a worldwide readership of art professionals as well as art patrons and art lovers. We have our finger on the pulse of the visual art scene with a sense of pride and freedom to champion everyone, from emerging artists to art professionals of all stages and ages. Debbie Coles-Dobey epitomizes the strong ethics which every employer could ever want of an employee. There have been times that we have pitched a story and not gotten it. And we are okay with that because we respect Debbie. We know that she is looking out, has always looked out for the best interests of Boynton Beach and the city and its arts in public places program. She serves as an influential mentor to artists around the world. I'm not sure you understand that. And you need to understand and know her influence and her integrity. We also understand the political nature of many art positions, but cannot fathom how she became the victim in the case of her position as Director of Art and Public Places of Boynton Beach. When I read this, I was shocked. And then I immediately expressed my wish for a full and transparent public investigation. We are not an investigative publication, but I do hope that another publication or investigative reporter will look into this. I know things are on public record, but most people don't read that. Debbie Coles-Dobey deserves better than this. As the city of Boynton Beach has reaped the accolades that she has sown, the city also needs to look within its own systems and place blame where it truly belongs. As a country, we're looking inward at our own behaviors. I encourage you to take some time of introspection to allow Debbie Coles-Dobey to move forward in her endeavors with a cleared name. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. And so we're going to try Dana Donati one more time. Dana, it says you're self-muted. Dana, we'll give you a few more seconds to unmute and to give you an opportunity to speak. Otherwise, I'm going to read your comments into the record. It says DCB was following the public art process. She was not a decision maker. I'm guessing DCB is Debbie Coles-Dobey. Was following the public art process. She was not a decision maker. Will the city consider reinstating her based on her following city sanctioned process? All right, thank you, Dana. Let's going to do one final check through to see if anyone that I missed. John,
I see a hand raised by Ricky Leiter. I'm not positive.
She just spoke.
Okay.
All right, Dana is able to figure out the hand.
Okay.
And so it looks like you got a green microphone. Are you able to use the microphone, Dana? I'm sorry, Dana. It doesn't look like it's working. And now you self-muted. All right. I have a request from Commissioner Katz to speak regarding the comments, and so
thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
And I wasn't going to say anything, and I'll keep my comments brief because I understand the implications of them. I just wanted to echo some of the statements from my fellow commissioners at the beginning of the meeting, voicing support for our city manager. I've heard the word hastily used by some individuals I would choose another word. I would say expeditious. I think that the city manager, under great duress because of the nature of the issue, acted with decisiveness and did everything in her power to try to right a wrong like this. You know, I get it. It's an emotionally charged topic, and if you are friends of the individuals who were held accountable, I totally understand the sympathies that people have. But one comment that strikes me is, you know, I've seen it in emails and someone said it, you know, this is a touchy subject in light of what's going on recently. And I understand what some people are trying to say, but in saying that, you're confirming one of the biggest gripes of the individuals in society, minorities, African Americans, that somehow this is not taken seriously on a regular basis, and that right now, only because right now and what's going on, you know, a harsher punishment is being doled out than what ought to be. And I push back on that because I reject the idea that what happened should have been treated lighter had it happened 6 months or a year ago. It is just as offensive whenever it took place. So I understand what's being said, but I'm pushing back because it feeds into one of the worst aspects of racism in our society. It's that people are oblivious and don't recognize how serious it is and are trying to attribute the response to the emotion of the moment. The emotion has always been there. People who have been discriminated against would find this no less offensive last year than they do right now. So it's a serious problem, and the city manager, exercising her powers, took decisive action to remedy the problem and to try to restore some faith in our residents and the public that this city is aware of either active or inadvertent racist activity, and that we can't turn a blind eye to it. That's how society's dealt with these things for a long time, and this city is not dealing with it that way. You know, again, I echo the sentiments of some of my commissioners that the city manager has my full support. This is it's a sad turn of events, but the reality is that the punishment fits the crime in this case, and the city needed to show the public that we take these crimes seriously because they are deadly serious in many cases. Thank you.
Mayor.
All right. Yes, Commissioner Romulus. And so I'll let the rest of the commission speak if they'd like to.
Thank you. I just want to, I was trying to debate whether or not I should comment here, but I really do feel like this is the proper time to say something. So I have received all of the emails and the multiple correspondence in regards to, you know, the firing of Debbie Goldsbay and the ultimate leaving of the fire chief. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, you know, I am in full support of the decision that the city manager has taken. I know a lot of individuals are saying that Ms. Goldsbay was scapegoated, but at the end of the day, let's make sure we understand something. Debbie answers to the city manager. The fire chief is not her boss. No one who perhaps she said may have made her feel pressured was her boss. So if anyone was pressuring the arts director or arts manager, whatever her title is, it would have or should have been the city manager. And if she felt pressured by other individuals, the proper chain of command should have been to go to the city manager and express that concern. That never occurred. And the problem that you know, I think my fellow Commissioner Vice Mayor Commissioner Katz for mentioning, the problem is that, you know, we are very quick here to jump to saying that the city manager, you know, made a reactionary decision and that she jumped to conclusions and let's you know, give this individual her job back. That's great and all, but as the arts director, seeing something as blatant as this and not taking action, not doing something, or even if the situation was that she was being bullied or pressured to do it, and feeling like her back was against the wall, but not using that out of saying, you know, Miss Leverrier, I don't feel comfortable about making this decision. Can you help me out here? That wasn't done. Instead, it was allowed to perpetuate. Instead, it got to the point where it was put on a city building, and allowed for the general public to see two prominent individuals in our community who are, one being a darling of District 2 who grew up here, her family's here, she has a legacy in this city. The other being the first Black man, Black period, as a fire chief in the city, to have both their, I'm offended. To be honest, I'm getting worked up as I talk about this. I am offended. And, I understand that our community is upset and they've lost a titan in their community. I understand that. And you know what, I wish Miss Colzabay the best. And I feel that, being that she's so talented, she can be able to take that talent and go anywhere else with it. But at this point, the decision that was made merits the actions that were taken. And I stand in full support behind the city manager and it being done. That is all I will say to that. And thank you everybody for your input and your comments and your recommendations on who Mr. Bay is and all that she's contributed. And I am very grateful for her work and for her talents that she's contributed to the city over the last 15 years in helping to put us on the map as a destination city for the arts. And we will take that work and we will continue it. I'm sure that we'll be able to find someone else that can continue the work that she started and keep putting us on the map and potentially take us higher. But mistakes like that are mistakes that have taken this country to the point where we are now, where we are willing to look it over. Oh, it was just a mistake. Oh, she didn't mean it. She has no racist bone in her body. You know what? You don't always have to be a avowed KKK, white hood wearing person to say that you're a racist. Sometimes just not being aware of your internal biases also makes you guilty of that fault. And that's what I think Black Americans right now in this day and age, with everything that's happening in this country, are asking our white and non-color allies to be mindful of, that your decisions affect so many people. Your lack of inability to look at how your decisions may affect other people hurts. It literally hurts. And defacing or erasing people just because you felt you were pressured and you didn't stand up for it, against it, is not an excuse. I don't buy it. And that is my opinion, and that is what I'm sticking with. And I support the city manager in her decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Would any of the other commissioners like to follow that?
Well, just a few words.
Yes.
I said what I wanted to say at the beginning. I still stand by it, but I concur with Commissioner Katz and Commissioner Romulus on their comments just a few minutes ago. And I just would like to say that Debbie Colzabay was a good close friend of mine ever since I came into the political arena back in 2007. And I still like her, but it just boggles my mind. I really would like to know what was she thinking that this would not come out, because there was a real picture that existed, okay, that would match up with the picture that was put on the wall. So how could you not think that would come out and be revealed? So I don't want to prolong it anymore. I think it was well stated by Commissioner Christina Romulus and Katz. I concur with that 110%. So I'm ready to move on.
All right. Vice Mayor, do you have any further comments?
At this point, Mayor, I don't think I have anything significant to add. I think everything's been said, and so I am in full support with everything that's been said. So we are where we are.
All right, and so I'm going to give one last opportunity for public's audience for Dana Donate. All right, you are unmuted, and so if we can't hear you, that means there's something wrong with your microphone, and we cannot hear you. All right. There's some further comments from Dana that says, Debbie Coles DeBay has worked for the city for 13 years, 3 of which on a volunteer basis to develop the program. Consider this, please. And then there was a couple of questions from Rolando Barbero. What office is Commissioner Romulus running for? What are all these questions go on the, will all these questions go on the public record? And why was the fire chief allowed to resign? He asked for the changes, and Dan and Don say, crime, what crime? And I think that is all the comments and people who have had an opportunity to speak. And so now I am closing public audience. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
All right, we are moving on to administrative. And so the City Commission will appoint advisory board members. We have 2 regular and 1 alternate available for the Building Board of Adjustments and Appeals, 1 non-voting student for the Education Youth Advisory Board. We have 2 alternate positions available for the Historic Resources Preservation Board. We will have Commissioner Katz, who has the 2-year term to 12/21, go first.
I will nominate Mr. Small.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All right, and before we proceed, I've read Mr. Small's resume, and it is very extensive, and I'm very pleased that he will be joining us, or I hope that he will be able to join us on our advisory board. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. We have 2 regular and 2 alternate available for the library board, and those are our available advisory boards. Moving on to consent agenda. Would anyone from the commission like to pull an item from the consent agenda?
Mayor, I'd like to pull item I, the commission meeting minutes.
Okay. And I'd like to pull item A.
Mayor, I'd also like to pull item B.
Okay. All right, beginning with item 6A, proposed resolution number 20-040, adopting a complete streets and mobility policy with the goal of enhancing the city of Boynton Beach multimodal transportation network. I'm very pleased that the city is moving forward with this. I feel that, because we are a city, we should have complete streets with proper sidewalks, bike paths, and a lot of multimodal transportation needs available. And so I don't believe we have a presentation for this, but the backup is pretty informative. And so hopefully we can put that information on our city's website. Yes.
Mayor Grant, there is a presentation available, and I have unmuted Amanda Baisley-Radigan.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Mayor. Yes, this is Amanda Basili-Radigan with the city's planning department. There is a presentation available if you would like to see it.
Well, I always like to hear presentations if you made it, because otherwise, what's the point of making them?
Okay, that's what they're here for.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the introduction, Mayor. So if you could please, I'm sorry, John, do I just tell you to go to the next slide, or do I have control?
Yes, please.
Okay, yeah, so please go to the next slide. So this policy is titled the Complete Streets and Mobility Policy of Boynton Beach. A little bit of background, this did stem from our strategic plan. There is an entire pillar that is dedicated to transportation and mobility. And this quote comes straight from that. It says, we're looking to connect the community through safe, accessible, and multimodal systems that improve the quality of life in Boynton Beach. So from that strategic plan, this policy is being put together. Next slide, please. So what are complete streets? Complete streets call for all of our roads to be constructed and operated in a way that they allow for safe, equitable, and convenient access among all users. This includes the way we build sidewalks, bike lanes, our travel lanes, crosswalks, landscaping, and street furniture. Next slide, please.
A few of the benefits that come from designing complete streets are noted on this slide. This image did come from Palm Beach County's Complete Streets. One of the benefits is that people who are in neighborhoods that have sidewalks are 47% more likely to be active at least 30 minutes a day. Pedestrian activity increases support of local businesses. If you are taking transportation versus driving alone, there's an estimated savings of $9,700 a year. And Complete Streets also helps to integrate our land uses and our transportation systems to create an attractive community, especially in our downtowns. Next slide, please. So this is the meat of it. To your right of the slide, you have all of the parts of this policy. This is just the first step in us moving towards Complete Streets design. And at the end, we'll talk about our next steps. So the vision of this policy is, as described, we're looking to start building streets consistently through a Complete Streets manner. And the key to this is that it's supposed to provide comfortable access for all mobility users of all age and abilities, income levels, and transportation modes. Next slide. And I think the most important part to talk about in this policy are the 6 goals. Part of my slide is cut off here. I don't know if you're seeing it the same way I am. I only see 5 on the screen, but there are 6. So the first one is to create a transportation system that is designed and operated in a way that ensures safety and convenience. The second is to create a transportation system that includes a fully connected multimodal system. So we are not just creating fragments, we're really trying to integrate our systems together so they're used effectively. The next one is to increase walking, bicycling, and public transit. The fourth is to create a system that promotes economic development and contribute to a more livable community. The fifth, we have titled Vision Zero Equity and Data-Driven Approach. It really is about creating a system that views road safety as a social equity issue and to the greatest extent possible ensures that equity is actively pursuing the elimination of access disparities. So we want to make sure that these roads are being prioritized and really tying into neighborhoods that need the public transportation and different mode options aside from a vehicle. And the last one, which I think is cut off, is community health and sustainability. Complete Streets was also recommended in the city's CAP plan, the climate action plan. So we are trying to further some of the same goals that are stated in that plan as well. So I'm not going to go through the rest of these portions. I just want to say a sentence on each. As you work through the policy, there is a section that talks about who it's applicable to. Some exceptions for types of roads. Land use and context really goes through the sensitive nature of where the streets are. So depending on what type of context, the recommendations will differ. Design will cover best practices. Priority prioritization would be staff directing staff to come up with a way to prioritize certain projects based on a rating system. Implementation steps starts to guide us on how we get to this overall goal. And then our performance measures covers how we're going to measure our success. This could be an example of it would be how many crosswalks have we built or improved, the number of ADA accommodations that were built or installed, the number of street trees that were planted, or the percentage of commuters who drive alone, seeing that number decrease over time. John, next slide, please. So the next step, once the city does adopt this policy, the next portion of this will be to create a complete streets and mobility plan. That item is actually on your agenda too. It is a contract to work with a consultant and staff to complete this plan, which acts as the real guiding document with the details and all of the portions that we talked about in this presentation today. Next slide. I am available if you have any questions. Colin Groff has also been part of this process, and some of the other staff that is working through this is Craig Pinder in the planning department, and then Terry and Paula as part of the engineering department. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. And as I always mention, that the county road on Seacrest Boulevard from Woolbright to Boynton Beach Boulevard, whatever we can do to help the county see that that needs to be a complete street so that we can have more people walk and bike to our downtown, I'm all in favor for.
Absolutely.
All right.
Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner Romulus.
just quickly, this is related but unrelated. I would like an update on what's going on and where we are with the Gulfstream road that's being redone. If the city manager could bring that back or just report at a later time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anything else on regarding this item?
Mayor, I'd like to ask a question to Amanda. Amanda, as I was going through the documents, the phrase equitable streets keep coming up, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around what exactly does an equitable street mean?
Sure.
Is it about connecting certain communities? Is it the type of street?
Yeah, I think it falls into two categories. Equitable streets does mean that every person will be able to use that street, no matter your income, no matter your ability, your physical ability, meaning we're not building 3-foot sidewalks that a wheelchair can't go through. We're building safe crosswalks that an elderly person will be able to cross with ample time, creating an equitable situation. And then the other part of that is really about, I think, more of funding and where the city prioritizes its money, making sure that some of our distressed areas or some of our lower income areas are still included in access to some of these amenities that the city is building.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any other comments from the City Commission? May I have a motion to approve?
No move.
I got a motion by Vice Mayor Pensegra, a second by Commissioner Katz. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Our next item is proposed resolution number 20-054. Authorize the city manager to sign an equipment lease purchase agreement with Motorola Solutions, Inc. in the amount of $91,838 per year over 5 years to purchase Command Central Aware software for the police department's real-time crime center. Do we have someone from the police department to explain what we are purchasing?
Chief Gregory.
Lori's version of it is it lets all of our technologies talk to each other, but I'm sure he could do a better job than that. He should be on the meeting here, but it's a software that ties all of our ALPRs, cameras, all that information comes into this software that aggregates it and provides meaningful data and information for us. But Chief Gregory should be on. Oh, he said unmute him.
Looking for Chief Gregory.
What's his, what did he enter under?
Oh, sorry.
Under staff,
yes. Yeah. My apologies.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Chief.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. Michael Gregory, Police Chief. Thank you. If you could repeat the question one more time, what are we looking to find out?
What are we buying?
Okay,
and
very
how
good.
will it be implemented?
Certainly. The system Command Central Aware will be the software used in our real-time crime center that many of you had an opportunity to tour when you're in the police department. You saw that big room with the blank wall that has outlets all over it. That will be our real-time crime center. There'll be television monitors mounted up there that will be able to display the security cameras that we're installing around the city, the cameras from City Hall, the ones at Sarah Sims Park, and others that will be put in place, and others that we might just deploy for special events like the Pirates Festival or Rock the Plaza or any types of events that we might do. We can deploy portable and temporary cameras so we can get those feeds back to a central place for someone to monitor and have oversight, as well as it could be utilized for a critical incident like an active shooter at a mall or at a school or something like that. That will be our command post, you might say, inside that room. What the Command Central Aware software does is allows us to actually connect into the many different computer software programs that some we already have in existence now, and some that we'll be procuring in the future, to be able to see in one piece of software everything that's going on. You might equate it to if you had to sit down and at your computer and log into every single piece of software you have individually and on different actual hardware pieces of computers versus using one computer to see everything. That software is designed to be able to identify the alerts that come out of our CAD system that tells us that an incident just occurred, where that incident might have occurred at, and it will automatically start to identify, well, are there cameras in this particular area near where that incident happened? Like perhaps it was a robbery. Are there any cameras in the location of that robbery? Perhaps those cameras might have recorded the incident and alert the operator to be able to rewind the camera and look for the suspect. It could also look to see if we have license plate readers in that area and then alert the operator that, hey, there are already license plate readers in this area. Go back through the history to see if the suspect vehicle is in the log. So it also gives us the ability to look at the alerts that we will receive from our access control security system that we've implemented now at City Hall, as well as in the police station, and will be migrated to all the other city facilities in the near future. In the event there was a panic alarm that went off from, let's say, the cashier at the water department where you pay your water bill and someone tried to do something nefarious there, the clerk will have the ability of hitting an alarm panic button. That button will alert our dispatch 911 center and the Command Central Aware software. It will then automatically open up the cameras in that particular area of the building so the operator can see those cameras, record that footage. We'll be able to eventually take a snapshot of that, push it back out to the patrol cars who are still responding to the incident. So that's where the term real-time crime center evolves from, is the ability of not having to wait for an officer to get on the scene and then try to start figuring out what took place. We can start that investigation at the point that the call comes in, or that as soon as we learn from an alert that a potential incident is occurring, we can start investigating it. And as the units are responding, if like in that scenario, let's say there was an incident that happened at the water building department, we could potentially be able to push images of the suspect, of the incident that's occurring, their physical description, their path that they're traveling, out to the patrol cars so they know what they're looking for when they get on the scene. So as a real brief snapshot and condensed version, that's a high level look at how we would use that system and how it will aid us with navigating all these computer systems we have and pushing that information into the field so it's in the hands of our officers to increase their level of safety, as well as giving them the ability to make the best decisions that they can when they arrive.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm very excited for our new police station.
Thank you very much. As well.
Is there any other questions? Yep, Commissioner Romulus.
Yes, thank you, Chief, for giving us that update on what that item was. I also just wanted to emphasize the fact that I believe this is an item that went from nearly $500,000 down to something. Can you clarify that, either you or Lori, because the numbers look pretty astounding to me in terms of cost savings.
I don't think it went down too dramatically. What we're doing, though, is we do have a grant, a federal grant from Department of Justice to help us procure this particular system. That we were awarded that earlier, several months back. It's over $450,000 that we received to assist us with the system, and that covers the initial payment for the system and what is didn't cover that payment, plus our maintenance costs or what's on the agenda for you tonight. So this is the maintenance, annual ongoing maintenance to keep the system supported, up and running at its best, and gives us someone to call in the event it does crash. We can make those calls in the middle of the night and get someone to dial in or connect to it to fix it. So this is the maintenance and the remaining balance of the implementation cost.
Sounds good. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Romulus is correct, Mayor. It was a grant that we did get, nearly a $500,000 grant. We didn't catch that when she first said that.
Okay,
that did.
Like,
you're right. You got it. You did it.
Okay. Well,
you're not losing it. I am.
All right. Commissioner Hay.
Yes, I just want to say I'm excited about the new system, what it can do based on what Chief just described. But just one other question, Chief, is, do you know of any other municipality that has this particular system, or are we going to be unique?
Sorry, we're not quite unique yet. This is a system that's out there. It's in use by a number of other cities. Two that are very well marketed and highlighted is, if anyone wants to research it, is the Greenlight Project in Detroit. They implemented the system there. It's also a partnership with a number of their local convenience stores, so that to help them impact the robberies and crimes that were occurring at those convenience stores, they partnered with the convenience store. The cameras that are at that property, at the convenience store, the gas stations, feed right back into this Command Central Aware system. So they've got a couple of YouTube videos that talk about the success they've had in Detroit. And another highly touted implementation is in the city of New Orleans. It's up and running. And if you're there on Bourbon Street or some of those other areas, you'll notice they have security cameras around the city for safety. Those cameras are tied back into Command Central Aware system. They use that there. People are monitoring them, and the city system sends out automatic alerts to their staff when there's nefarious activity happening or things that they call triggering events. Locally, we have the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office is implementing this system currently, like we will be doing, and the city of Boca Raton has already purchased it. They're up and running and just integrating it with their other applications. So, unfortunately, we're not the first, but we're catching up to the pack.
Very good, Chief. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments from the commission? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Then we have item 6I, approved minutes from the City Commission meeting on June 2nd, 2020. Vice Mayor?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I know it's rare that we pull the meeting minutes, but this time I do have to do that. And for the sake of the public, let me begin by saying that meeting minutes are a summary of what was said, not necessarily a word-for-word transcription of what was said in the last meeting. At the end of my informational opening statement last meeting, I said something to the effect of Black and Brown lives matter, and that they too deserve the same dignity that's afforded to all other people. And unfortunately and ironically, that was summarized in the minutes as me stating that all lives matter. And that's ironic because that statement, all lives matter, for those that are not aware, is used specifically as a rebuttal to take away from the message of the Black Lives Movement and statements similar to what I've said. And so that was quite ironic. So the idea of all lives mattering, I think, is aspirational. And that is what we strive to do, but that is not what we see on the ground. And so I just want to reiterate the fact that Black lives matter. And in saying that, it does not mean that no one else, other people's lives don't matter. It doesn't mean that officers' lives don't matter. It doesn't mean it's anti-cop. It just means that Black lives matter. And that right now they are calling and asking for our help to make their lives more equitable. And so I am asking, well, I'll make a motion to amend the minutes to say that instead of saying that all lives matter, that black and brown lives, I'm mixing those two words together. Black and brown lives matter. So I just want to make sure that is clear for the record. So 5 years down the road, there's no confusion.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion for this item? Hearing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. May I have a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda?
Mayor, could I pull item H real quick? I apologize.
You want H as well?
Yes.
Okay. Item H is proposed resolution number R20-056, authorize the mayor to sign FPL easement forms for parking lot lighting associated with the Eco Park project.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to pull this to draw any attention I can to this. But for people who don't know, You know, because of a series of decisions going back years now, the city is in a position to facilitate the development of a passive park, an eco park in excess of 50 to 60 acres right here within the city limits. And once this kind of vision comes to fruition, it's going to be an amazing natural amenity for our residents and anybody who wants to come to it. So I just realized, you know, it's going to slip through on consent. It's just an approval to have FPL build a parking lot, but it's a parking lot that will be used in large part for the eco park that will come to fruition in the next, hopefully, couple of years. And I wanted to ask legal a question real quick, if they can respond. We had set out to have the state IG department look into concerns relative to the Quantum Park Overlay Dependent District that had control of this land for a period of time, and what I and others, I believe, see as some transgressions that took place historically, and to the city attorney. Has the state's IG office responded to our inquiry or our request for an investigation into potential misdeeds that took place within the Quantum Park Overlay Dependent District in recent years?
We were able to track down a response, and basically the Auditor General's office, Inspector General's office, some people refer to it, but it's not. It's the Auditor General. Basically kicked it on down the road a little bit, and it may be that the item comes back to the City Commission to fulfill the initial request for audit. But I'll have to do some additional research on how that's to be accomplished and report back to you at the next meeting.
Thank you. And in light of those comments, I just request that not necessarily future agenda items for the next meeting, but that what you said just does happen, that we get a chance to look into this, because I take what happened with the Quantum Park Overlay Dependent District personal. It came to my attention when I first got on the commission, and you know, I'm happy that we've sorted out a lot of the problems, almost all, if not every problem. But I do want to know, for our taxpayers' sake, you know, whether or not some inappropriate conduct took place, and if there are parties that need to be held liable on behalf of the taxpayers, they should be. And this is our only avenue to do this, since we can't investigate locally. So I appreciate that, and I'd request in the future that it come back, like you said, for the commission to review how to continue pursuing this if they see fit, as I do. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Katz. We'll make sure that it goes on future agenda items before we close the meeting. The other thing that I'd like to also make when working with FPL is that to see what they did with our Oceanfront Park and barrier-free park with having the solar panels, I'm hoping that we can have that sort of agreement with them, so that when they're doing the easements for the lighting, that we also can have solar panel canopies also installed, especially if we're calling it an eco park. And the next question is funding, and so that comes to see where we will get the funding, and I'm hopefully that we can find a way to make sure that that happens, whether it's through FPL's Solar Now program or another function of the city or the city's utility. All right. Seeing no more further comments, may I have a motion to approve item 6H?
So moved.
Second.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. May I have a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda?
So
moved.
Second.
Thank you. I have a first by Commissioner Hayes, second by Commissioner Katz. All those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to consent bids and purchases over 100,000. Would the commission like to approve any of these items? Would like to pull any of these items? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent bids and purchases over 100,000?
So move.
Second.
All right. Seeing no more further discussion, All those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to public hearing. The City Commission will conduct these public hearings in its dual capacity as local planning agency and City Commission. Jim, I see you got a lot of reading to do. So I'll let you start beginning on proposed ordinances 20-017 to 20-023.
Thank you, Mayor. And then staff, I guess, could follow up to the reading. When we return to them, they have to be approved individually, I'm sorry to say, as opposed to one motion, because they're different subject matters. Ordinance 20-017, an ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending the Land Development Regulations, Chapter 3, Zoning, Article 3, Zoning Districts and Overlays, Section 1B and 2E to set a consistent maximum building height for all single-family and single and two-family residential zoning districts, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and an effective date. Ordinance 20-018, an ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending the Land Development Regulations, Chapter 3, Zoning, Article 3, Zoning Districts and Overlays, Section 1B and 2C and 2E to modify development standards for selected non-conforming lots, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and an effective date. Ordinance 20-019, an ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending the Land Development Regulations, Chapter 3, Zoning, Article 4, Use Regulations, Section 3D, Use Matrix to revise the locational criteria and regulations for automotive rental, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and an effective date. Ordinance 020, an ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending the Land Development Regulations, Chapter 3, Zoning, Article 4, Use Regulations, Section 3D, Use Matrix to allow professional and technical schools and industrial pods within Quantum Park, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and an effective date. Ordinance 20-021, an ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending the Land Development Regulations, Chapter 3, Zoning, Article 4, Use Regulations, Section 3D, Use Matrix to allow self-service storage in the C4 zoning district, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and an effective date. Ordinance 20-022, an ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending the Land Development Regulations, Chapter 3, Zoning, Article 5, Supplemental Regulations, Section 3D, Swimming pools and spas to amend locational criteria, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and an effective date. Ordinance 20-023, an ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending the Land Development Regulations, Chapter 3, Zoning, Article 5, Supplemental Regulations to add Section 3, AA, in-ground storm shelters, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and an effective date.
All right. Thank you, Jim. So, do we have a presentation?
Yes, Mayor, this is Amanda Basile-Radigan with the city's planning department again. John, if you could please pull up the presentation.
Yep, I'm in the process right now.
Thank you. Okay, that was quite a mouthful. So there are 7 different, I'm grouping them together to try and talk about them. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Next slide, please. So the first group of amendments that we are making have to do with expanding locations of selected uses, specifically the 3 listed here. So the first one is automobile rental, and we are expanding it to be permitted in the SMU and MU4 districts. We are already permitted in MU3 and MU core. When MU4 was created, this just didn't carry over, so we're fitting it back in. It must be located on sites with major intersections, and it is a conditional use approval for any outdoor vehicle storage within the mixed use, within the commercial districts. Outdoor storage of vehicles are not permitted within the mixed use districts. It is only indoor and or just the office. The second one is self-service storage. We are adding that to be permitted into C4, and it is prohibited on sites fronting an arterial road. And then the last one is professional and technical schools. We are adding it to the PID district on industrial lots marked I. And the objective of this amendment is to meet the demand for the growing city populations and some requests that have come through on these specific uses. Next slide, please. So the next subject is the maximum building height in our R2 zoning district. The current height is, the current maximum height permitted is 25 feet. Right now, our single family zoning districts, which are a lesser intensity, are permitted to go to 30. So we are bringing up the R2 to be consistent with that. It really didn't make sense that it was lower when it's a higher intensity. So it is being brought up to be consistent with the lower intense zoning district. Next slide, please. The third subject is the construction of pools on homes that are on corner lots. The current regulations do not permit pools to be constructed on the corner or the front side of a home. This amendment would now allow them to be permitted in these areas with a couple of things that would have to be met as well. One would be you would still have to maintain a 15-foot setback from your from the property line to the pool, and there's also required screening, which includes an opaque fence. And these would only be permitted if the shape of the lot really did inhibit the homeowner from building a pool in either the rear or the side. Next slide, please. So the next one is for in-ground storm shelters. The code was silent to them before, and now we are allowing them to be built. Next slide. And then the last is non-conforming lot standards. Several parcels in the heart of Boynton district specifically are currently unbuildable, largely due to the size of the lot or the frontage requirements. So what we did is we took the zoning districts within the heart of Boynton and permitted modified development standards, which would allow these specific lots to be constructed on. And it would only allow single family homes, and it would hopefully increase inventory of attainable housing in this area. Next slide. That is all I have. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. So my question is regarding the self-service storage in the C4 zoning district. Mainly, I want to understand why is there the need for expanded self-storage units in the city? And is this a conditional use or a permitted use?
Okay, John, I'm going to ask for you to unmute Ed, only because he knows a little bit more about this specific topic.
Okay, just a second.
Thank you.
Ed Breeze, you've been unmuted.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, Ed, we hear you.
Okay, yes, I'm looking up that section of the code. So in the C4, it would be a permitted use with a series of regulations associated with it. It would not be allowed on any major thoroughfares. So there is limited C4 applicability, as C4 allows warehousing and various different manufacturing type of businesses. It seemed fair to allow the self-storage in the C4 districts, again, noting that it would not be on a major thoroughfare.
The main issue that I have with the self-storage units is that it does not allow for economic development within our city. This, the experience that I have is that for the C3 zoning district, a self-storage unit was trying to go into the Expo Center, which is now a restaurant depot. And because it was a conditional use, not a permitted use, they would have had to jump through a lot of different hoops in order to get a self-storage unit in that. And with the passage of time, we ended up getting a much better use. We originally almost had a camping world there, but our code didn't allow them to have their RVs in the lot, so is what I believe I heard. And so that is where I would not want it to be a permitted use. With the restrictions, I would still want the city commission for any future administrations to have approval with a conditional use, because we don't necessarily know which lot that they are taking up. And I feel that the economic development of our city is vital, where we are seeing now the prices of industrial skyrocketing, and we do not really have much industrial space left in the city. Where C4, you can have manufacturing for certain types of needs. I feel that we need to make sure that the city commission has that final approval for any self-storage units that are coming into the city in a C4 zoning. So I would request that the city commission make a motion to amend the permitted use with restrictions to a conditional use with restrictions.
Mayor, can you please clarify what you're asking to be a conditional?
So, I'm not saying that the self-storage unit proposed ordinance number 20-021, that staff not just approve their current regulations and restrictions, that it goes to the city commission for a conditional approval, similar to when we approved in the past the daycare over in the Pete Rose restaurant, where it was a 3-2 vote, where I feel that both the commission had the opportunity to discuss the pros and cons of having a daycare in a shopping plaza versus a standalone building.
I guess I'm okay with that.
All right, and so I'll open it up to the other commission for any of the other six ordinances that we have. Or no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ordinances.
Right. Mayor, I have a question.
Yes.
Could be Amanda, could be Ed. Regarding these non-conforming lots, you say that we have all these parcels in the heart of Boynton, and this could increase inventory. Do you know how many parcels that could be affected by this?
I do not off the top of my head.
Generally speaking, is this a significant portion of the heart of Boynton parcels?
There are several lots. I mean, anything that is smaller than 50 feet wide is technically unbuildable right now. And, there are codes that allow, for down to 20-foot lots. You can do shotgun style homes. There are lots of different typologies of homes that you could build on smaller lots, but the standard zoning districts don't permit those to be built. So we have lots on the northern part of, over time, these lots were subdivided and just became illegal parcels for building. So it affects a lot of parcels. And when we were drafting them, I was mapping them out, but I do not have a count number.
That's okay. I just wanted to have a sense of the impact of this. And you mentioned the phrase shotgun house. Is that what you said? What did you mean by that?
Yeah, so shotgun homes are designed long and narrow. They're kind of loft style where you would have to, it's a hallway on one side and the rooms are kind of stacked behind each other. So you would walk through the family room to get to the bedroom. It's just a type of housing that allows you to build short in the front and deep.
Okay. Okay.
And just so you know, one of the things that we did put in, because although we want these lots to be buildable, we did put some safeguards to make sure we weren't getting, poor quality housing either. We did keep minimum livable area of 750 square feet, which is about the size of a large one-bedroom apartment. So there are still some minimums within that. So just because you could build, it doesn't mean you can put a 200 square foot home on it either.
I understand now. Thank you.
Amanda, so what is the size of a shipping container?
What is that, 40 feet by 40 by 20 maybe?
Okay.
I think they're 40 by 20, which is about 800 square feet.
Okay.
I mean, it also does not mean that you'll be able to put just shipping containers down there. They would still need to meet, some architectural look, like a single family home, blend into the neighborhood. It doesn't mean that a shipping container might not be behind the architecture, but they're generally not allowed. It would have to be a single family home and work into the fabric of the city.
Well, yeah, you can put stucco on anything, so.
Absolutely, right. You could put siding, you could put stucco. I have seen some design that you would never believe are shipping containers.
Excellent. Okay. Does the commission have any other questions on any of the other 7 ordinances? Commissioner Hay?
Yeah. Amanda, you mentioned about in one of them, you're going from 25 feet to 30 feet. That would mean that any existing one would be able to increase another 5 feet. Is that correct? Probably yes.
Yeah. Technically, if you have a building in an R2 and you only have a 25-foot roof, technically you could go up another 5 feet.
Now you talked about hurricane and shelters and all that kind of stuff. Could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
I will, at the best of my ability. This topic was popular at the P&Z meeting too. So in-ground shelters are really geared for hurricane protection, and they are what they sound. They are underground, which is why it's easy for planning to permit them. However, there are engineering constraints to actually getting them built, which would fall into engineering codes and building codes. Just because we are allowing them to be built in the LDRs, they would still need to meet all other codes within the other disciplines. Anything that is above ground, if they have an entrance to come into the underground shelter, those would still have to meet accessory structure setbacks. So they could be about 3 feet from the property lines in the rear of the building.
Those that are underground, I mean, in South Florida, you wouldn't have to go too far to hit water.
Yes, sir.
I'm just curious. I mean, I just can't envision that. So,
yeah,
are there any existing ones?
No, because they weren't permitted in the city before this, but we did have a request for one. And what I learned during our planning and development board meeting is that it would be limited in, engineering wise, where they could actually be built. It would have to be on the highest part of the ridge where you have enough depth underground before you hit water.
Okay. I wouldn't be building one. Okay, thank you, Amanda.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner Romulus.
So just to clarify on your previous comment, so Amanda, do the non-conforming lots now allow for us to allow developers to build using the container lots?
If they looked like a single family home and met all of the other building requirements, yes, I believe so.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Seeing no more further discussion on any of the 7 ordinances, may I have a motion to approve proposed ordinance number 20-017?
So moved.
Second with discussion.
Yes.
Just to extend public comment if there are any interested parties before we vote.
Absolutely. Thank you for reminding me. John?
I have just allowed the options for public comment. Again, I guess public participation can be done by either raising your hand or by sending a question through the GoToWebinar interface. I see Susan Oyer would like to comment, and I have unmuted her audio.
Thank you, John. Susan Oyer, 140 Southeast 27th Way. We had a lot of discussion on these during P&D board, and I all of you took the time to listen to the discussions. I will once again speak against doing the auto rental locations. I will speak against doing self-serve because I think there was a lot of discussion on the parking problem and a car rental place taking over the parking if it's in a like a public shopping center, and they would take much, and that gets us. There was also discussion about having it in an M4 possibly on. We were given the example of Boynton Beach Boulevard in US 1. You know, like for example, Enterprise could come in and rent in Casa Costa. The problem is you end up with the U-Haul situation that you already have on the north end of Boynton, where everyone's complaining because all the rental U-Hauls are sitting in the street blocking bicycles and driving and walking. And I'm afraid that same thing would happen. So I think it really needs to be restricted. So not MU4, but yes to the SMU locations. Again, the self-service storage, I think the look that gives to our city is not a look that we are trying to give as we have people into our city, consider our city as an employment base, as we're trying to beautify our city, which, as I recall from all the CRA surveys, beautification's the #1 issue for everybody. What does a self-service storage center give? Because they want prime visible locations so everybody sees it. And that's, I don't know, the people, maybe it's just, the people I know, we all look at it as being kind of low rent looking. And if we're going to have that, it needs to be very well hidden, not something that you see when you drive by on US 1 or Congress or anywhere else. And I think it needs to, if we're going to have it, it needs to be restricted off of major streets. And we also really should rethink it. There's plenty in the other towns near us, for example, Lantana, Hypoluxo, Lake Worth, that there's plenty of options for people. And it came up during P&D, somebody, I think it was Amanda actually, that said, why are we not, when we're building housing developments, for example, apartments, condos, whatever, why are we not requiring them to provide some self-storage within the facility for their own tenants? That would solve a lot of this. And those are my comments. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. John, do we have anyone else that has asked a question or raised their hands?
Not at this time, Mayor Grant.
All right, can you just, I guess, leave it open? And if someone else raises their hand, we'll call them on that specific item during public hearing.
Okay.
All right. So, seeing no more for public audience or for the public hearing, and seeing no further discussion for ordinance number 20-017, may I have a motion to, may I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Grant,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Penserga,
Yes.
Commissioner Cat,
Yes.
Commissioner Hay,
Aye.
Commissioner Romulus,
Aye.
vote is 5-0.
May I have a motion to approve ordinance number 20-018?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Seeing any further discussion? Seeing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Conserga,
Yes.
Commissioner Cat,
Yes.
Commissioner Hay,
Aye.
Commissioner Romulus,
Aye.
Mayor Grant.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0.
Ordinance number 20-019. May I have a
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Seeing any further discussion? Seeing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Cat,
Yes.
Commissioner Hay,
Aye.
Commissioner Romulus,
Aye.
Mayor Grant,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Conserga.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0.
Ordinance number 20-20. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion to
So moved.
approve.
Thank
Second.
you. Thank you. Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Hay,
Aye.
Commissioner Romulus,
Aye.
Mayor Grant,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Conserga.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0.
Ordinance number 20-021. May I have a motion to amend to include self-storage units in the C4 zoning district as a conditional use?
Motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Seeing any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Romulus,
Aye.
Mayor Grant,
Crystal, who did you say next?
Can you hear me?
You're a
Yes,
little
again,
muffled.
Okay. Vice Mayor Conserga,
Yes.
Commissioner Cat,
Yes.
Commissioner Hay.
Aye.
Vote is 5-0.
All right. Ordinance number 20-022. May I have a motion? Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seeing any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
No roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry. Roll call, please.
Okay.
Mayor Grant,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Conserga,
Yes.
Commissioner Cat,
Yes.
Commissioner Hay,
Aye.
Commissioner Romulus.
Aye.
Vote is 5-0.
All right. Ordinance number 20-23. May I have a motion?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Yes. Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion from the commission? Hearing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Conserga,
Yes.
Commissioner Cat,
Yes.
Commissioner Hay,
Aye.
Commissioner Romulus,
Aye.
Mayor Grant.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to ordinance number 20-002. May I have a motion to remove from the table?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Jim, can we get a reading?
Ordinance 20002, an ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending Ordinance 02013 to rezone a parcel of land described herein and commonly referred to as Boynton Mall from Community Commercial C3 to Suburban Mixed Use SMU, providing for conflicts, severability, and an effective date.
All right. Jim, or I guess, do we become the applicant for the second reading?
Yes, Mayor, between first and second reading, that change was made.
Okay.
And notice was provided.
All right. And so what burden do we have to approve the rezoning?
You have no burden. It's like any other item that comes before the commission to approve or disapprove.
All right. So any comments from the commission before we begin? Or can I get would you like a presentation, or may we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Is there any further discussion from the commission? And is there any discussion from the public? Seeing none on both accounts, may I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Cat,
Yes.
Commissioner Hay,
Aye.
Commissioner Romulus,
Aye.
Mayor Grant,
Yes.
Mayor Conserga,
Yes.
vote is 5-0.
All right. Thank you. And I'd like to thank this commission. I know that it's going to be a difficult task to get all property owners involved to agree. I did receive a warn notice from the Cinemark that they had to lay off a lot of their workers. But hopefully all the parties involved can work together so that we can redevelop that site. Is there any other comments from the commission? Seeing none, we'll move on to the city manager's report. Yep.
Mayor?
Yes.
I would like to just comment, being from the old school, when I was on the dais before, first reading, there was no comments from the audience. The only time they could comment was on the second reading, which I'm all for the way it's being done now.
Yeah.
But Jim could chime in on this, and I was almost to say something. I said, wait a minute, things have changed. You know, that was back in 2007 and 2008. This is a new day. So you take audience input on both the first and second reading. Jim, you remember that, don't you?
I do, and that harkens back to a day when the citizens didn't seem to have as much of a voice in development issues, and now they have twice the voice that they had before.
You're right. Very good.
And thank you, Commissioner Hay, for bringing that up. You know, part of the issue that we had is allowing comments on first reading is that the applicant is able to adjust and make and give answers to questions that the public may have on second reading.
I'm all for it.
All right, excellent. We got some more ordinances for you. But right now we're on City Manager's Report, Proposed Resolution 20-059.
Thank you, Mayor. We're David Scott. John, you'll need to mute David. We have some good news to bring forward with some additional CARES Act funding through our CDBG, our Community Development Block Grant Program that is going to allow us to, with a little bit additional restrictions from HUD, but to provide some business assistance to continue in the amount of about $351,000. So David's going to tell you a little bit about the program and see if you have any questions. And we're really very excited to be able to offer this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lori. And good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. I'm David Scott, Director of Economic Development and Strategy for the City of Boynton Beach. As Lori mentioned, we're pleased to bring forward an opportunity to leverage new money that has been provided to us through the CARES Act for our CDBG program. On April 2nd, 2020, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development informed the city of an award of $351,815 in supplemental community block grant money. These monies could go to different opportunities, but one of those opportunities is to respond to the coronavirus pandemic and look at providing monies to support those businesses that have been impacted negatively by this pandemic. So in keeping with the spirit of this commission and the direction of the city, to support our small local businesses, we in the past provided $60,000 in grants, which amounted to about $3,000 each for several of our small businesses. This $351,000 and $815 provides another opportunity to provide grants for our small local businesses. So we work with Lachey Brooks, and she is also available if we have any specific CDBG questions to develop a new community block grant, small business grant program. And in the past, we have provided a loan forgiveness. In this case, this is will be grants available for our small businesses. Those grants, as we have proposed, will provide up to $10,000 for eligible businesses. And those businesses will have to meet the criteria that are specified in the document itself. These will be, monies will be available to those businesses that are located within the city limits. But we wanted to exclude, in this case, exclude the CRA, those businesses within the CRA, because we understand that they have been able to, thankfully, avail themselves of over $1 million within the CRA. And we thank the CRA board and the executive director for doing that. So we want to make sure that our businesses that are located outside of the CRA also have available to them monies as they become available. So we look to provide this loan opportunity to those businesses, again, that are located within the city of limits outside of the CRA. They must be privately held for-profit businesses or sole proprietor that are and specifically nonprofits are ineligible. They must have an active City of Boynton Beach business tax receipt. They must be registered with sunbids.org. And Lori could tell a personal story about the business that has been around for a while and was not aware of Sunbiz. So we want to make sure that our businesses understand what the requirements are and have those documents available once this becomes grant becomes available. Home-based businesses may only use the loan for payroll expenses and are not eligible for rent or utility expenses. And we want to also mention that all supporting documentation must be in the same format or same name as indicated on the BTR. And applications will be considered, we say on the first come, first served basis, but we say first eligible, first served basis, where we want to, as we go forward, we will make the applications and loan grant available until the monies are expended. The eligible reimbursable uses are really, again, we want to help our businesses that have been impacted by COVID. So we were looking to support salaries and payroll, commercial leases or mortgages, commercial utility payments, or general expenses due to COVID safety provisions as businesses begin to open up. They may have an opportunity to demonstrate to us that they have been impacted negatively or their operations have been impacted negatively by COVID. And so we will consider that also. And we also consider loss of inventory because of COVID. So there are a list of required documentation that each of these businesses will be required to submit along with their application. And our goal after your approval of the amendments to both the citizen participation plan, which shortens the requirements from 15 days, public notice requirements from 15 days down to 5, which will allow for public comment. And then once that is satisfied, then we will be able to make the loan application available. That has been advertised in the Palm Beach Post as of today. And 5 days from today takes us to the 22nd of June. And it is our goal to create an online portal where businesses can apply, and we make that available on the city's website as we have in the past, and push that information out through our newsletter and social media, with the goal of having that available by June 26th. So with that, again, we are very excited about this opportunity to make this available. This is an addition to our allotment of CDBG money. It's over and above that usual amount, and it's really related to COVID. So we want to really take advantage of the funding available and push it out to our businesses as quickly as possible. So with that, I will take any questions or anything specifically any specific questions you have related to CDBG. Lachey Brooks is available for that.
Excellent. So I have a few questions, but I'll let anyone from the commission like to begin. All right, seeing none. Do we have to use the CDBG funding for businesses in the city, or can we find it other ways to spend it to help residents?
There, and Lachey could certainly weigh in, but we receive the eligible activities and uses for the money. You could use it for building and improvements, including public facilities. So there's a list of constructing facilities for testing, and this is all, again, this is all COVID related.
Yes.
So they have to be COVID related.
I see.
We're rehabilitating a community facility. So residential, it was really more specific, geared towards any response to COVID.
Okay, so this is similar to the contract that we signed with was a career source, that all of the jobs that we have to be COVID related, and where a business has lost funding, that is COVID related. So this should not apply to any of those essential businesses that were able to operate during the quarantine, like lawyers or construction industries. Is that the case?
That is correct. And it also precludes anyone who has received COVID money already through the PPP or other CARES related program, CARES Act related funding, are ineligible to receive additional funding because this is still COVID money.
Okay.
CARES Act money.
CARES Act. And so, my only concern is that it's also for the public safety, that if the city could use some of this funding for our public infrastructure, that people that go to Carolyn Simsey's El Hester, that uses our golf course, uses our barrier-free park. So you're saying that money could be used for that as well?
Specifically for
example, let's say that, it's not an automatic door. We can say, we really need to have an automatic door to help with people stop touching door handles all the time. That's the first thing that pops into my head.
Let's see, I'm looking at the requirements now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, this is Lachey Brooks. If it's a public facility and you need to use it for a door, yes. If that's the question you're asking. So if you're asking if we can use it at a public facility to make a door automatic, yes.
I feel like that's kind of necessary with some of our public facilities. And so I'd like to appropriate some of the funds, not all of the funds. If the total is $351,000, I'd like to make it an even number for the businesses so that any amount over 300,000 would be used for public facilities to help stop and avoid spread of COVID-19 in those facilities. Yeah, I don't if the commission is okay with that sort of allocation.
These are, just to be clear, Mayor, these are for automatic sliding doors, and the point being is that nobody has to touch anything.
Correct. And I figure, you know, the sliding door may cost $10,000, and that way we are programming our, you know, our city, rehabilitating some of our old buildings that aren't going to be torn down, so for the future.
Mayor, how much were you saying? 300 to the businesses and the balance, the 51,000 to facilities?
Correct.
I don't have a problem with that. Are we saying 51,000 or 61,000?
51.
Or 51,000. Now, I guess my question is, you said it's not in the CRA district. Do we have that many outside the CRA district that's doing COVID related activities? I guess the question is, what happens if you don't spend all of the funds and you got, you know, you're going to do $10,000 allotment, as I understand it. If you don't spend all those monies, will they be available for something else? Maybe for, I don't know. Do we have a feel for how many COVID related businesses we have out there, non-CRA district?
Commissioner, it's also it's really for those businesses that have been negatively impacted by COVID. So if you lost business, just as our previous grant was established, is support businesses that have negatively been impacted by COVID.
I see. Yeah. So that would assure that it would be consumed totally.
Yeah, our experience has been it doesn't last long.
Right. I got you.
And I guess my other question is that did the county's $60 million, has that all been spent?
It's my understanding that got spent fairly quickly.
All right.
Yes, they did spend all their money. Their program was only for several weeks. They had to cut it off. And my last talking with the county, they had over 4,000 applications.
Yes, it went fairly within, as Lachey said, within 2 weeks.
All right.
Now, are we saying too that the funds are available, say June 26th? Is that when the green light comes on?
That's our goal, to have the online portal up and available by next Friday, the 26th.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So, Jim, do we need an amended motion regarding the funds of 300,000 to businesses and the remainder for public usage, or public facilities?
Mayor, could you hear me? The answer is yes, you do need an amended motion.
All right. And I see a hand raised from Annette Gray, so I will unmute her. And it says she's self-muted.
No, thank you, Mayor. It's been answered. I just wanted to ask if the funds would be open to nonprofits as well, but David did eventually cover that in his presentation. I appreciate it.
All right. No worries. And thank you, Annette. All right. And seeing no more hand raised or question marks, may I have that amended motion from the commission?
Yeah, I would make that amended motion that the 51,000 be used for, what's the word in the public?
Public facilities to help stop for COVID-19 related improvements.
Yes.
All right.
May I, just before you make the motion,
Yes.
may I just get a little bit more? I just need a little bit more clarity as to what you would want it. So I'm sure you would tell me later so that I can make sure that I include it as the eligible activity when we write the report up for HUD, okay?
Basically, hand sanitizing stations, electronic automatic doors,
Thermometers.
camera thermometers. I think those are the three things that I feel that the city could use those funds for our facility, so that when people are coming to our what's it called, our budget hearing in an open space, and when we're not in our homes, that you have to prove you're not sick, unlike before where you had to prove that you're okay to do whatever you're doing. It's a little bit different now, and so that's where I feel that we should spend those money.
And all those scenarios are eligible activities that we can spend the funds on.
Okay.
May I ask Lachey, according to the criteria, it does say public services capped at 15%, which this does meet that criteria.
He said public service means something different in the language. That doesn't apply in this one. It's not public service. It will be something totally different, so we should be okay.
All right, understood. Okay, thank you.
We're still good with the number, so. All right, and did we have a motion? Do we have a second? And is the commission clear? Yes, Commissioner Hay.
I do have one other clarification. Was this non-CRA, was that HUD imposed, or was that city imposed?
That was our recommendation as a city. We followed our same approach that we used for the $60,000 that we had available.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So I had a motion second, seeing no more further discussion from the commission. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Moving on. Thank you. Moving on to 12A, proposed ordinance 20-024. Jim?
An ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending Part 2, Code of Ordinances, Chapter 16, City Parks and Recreation, Article 2, City Parks and Beaches, Section 16-60, establishing hours of use at Harvey E. Oyer Jr. Park to eliminate confusion and ensure clarity, providing for conflict severability, codification, and an effective date.
All right, may I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion from the commission? Hearing none. Do we have a public open? Seeing no one from the public raising a hand or asking a question, may I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Hay,
Aye.
Commissioner Romulus,
Aye.
Mayor Grant,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pinserga,
Yes.
Commissioner Katz,
Yes.
voted 5-0.
Thank you. Ordinance number 20-025, first reading. Jim?
An ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, approving the abandonment of an easement associated with the Riverwalk Plaza redevelopment project located at 1532 South Federal Highway, authorizing the city manager to execute a disclaimer which shall be recorded with this ordinance in the public records of Palm Beach County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
All right.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Not specifically to the easement abandonment, but a question for city staff relative to Riverwalk. The mangrove portion of the adjacent property that they own that they promised the city, do we have an update from staff on where we are in acquiring that property or a timeline?
Yes, Mayor. Mike Rumpf, we communicated with ISROM, I believe, today. John, if you can unmute Mike Rumpf.
I also have Ed Breeze unmuted as well. I believe he was going to speak on the topic, but I will get Mike Rumpf as well. They have both been unmuted. Either Ed or Mike, your microphones have been unmuted.
I'm sorry, I had to step away and use the facilities. Can you repeat the question?
Regarding the mangrove property south of Riverwalk, you had a discussion with ISROM?
Yes, we did. Their status is they're currently in application with the Army Corps to use the property as they would like, with a portion of it being preserved and a portion of it being developed. There is a portion of the in between the lowland and the upland areas that would be affected by the development, which is a particular interest of them in the Corps. They do not want to sever the property from their single ownership before they get through that process, as they fear it may complicate the review by the Corps. They've already submitted the application to the Corps, and it contains it under a single ownership of ISRAM. And they would like to wait until they get through that process before they convey the portion to the city.
Thank you.
So just to be clear, then everything is proceeding as planned. It's just that this is a time-consuming process with regards to mangrove mitigation in the Corps, right?
That is their experience as well as our understanding as the time required by the Corps to review the application. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Seeing no more further discussion from the commission. Did I get a motion in a second?
I believe
so.
Yep. All right. May anyone for public comments? I see Susan Oyer has her hand raised. I'll be unmuting her. Ms. Oyer?
Yeah, Susan Oyer, 140 Southeast 27th Way. I want to make sure that everyone is aware that I am completely opposed to anything that involves doing any kind of damage, any way, shape, or form to these mangroves. We have precious mangroves left in our county, in our state, in our country. I've seen some of the plans this gentleman has for the future. None of them are good because they all involve excessive destruction of our mangroves. And I've got to say, in talking to every person that hundreds of people here in the city of Boynton, I haven't met a single person that is for any destruction or removal or damage to our mangroves. And so I would advise you to be very careful as you move forward with whatever plans this gentleman brings forward. This is coming up in other cities as well, because there is apparently a small group of people working together to trade mangrove parks or actively buy them out and build them up. And I would encourage you all to look further into this situation and understand that the residents of this city don't want to see anything happen to those mangroves in any way, shape, or form. So please keep that in mind as you move forward. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Susan. All right. Seeing no more further discussion from the public, having a motion and second, and seeing no further discussion from the commission, may I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Romulus,
Aye.
Mayor Grant,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Conserga,
Yes.
Commissioner Cat,
Yes.
Commissioner Hay.
Aye.
Vote is 5-0.
Thank you. Proposed emergency ordinance number 20-026.
An emergency ordinance of the city of Boynton Beach, Florida, extending emergency ordinances 20-008 and 20-009, which authorized all city public meetings to be conducted by communication media technology, authorizing the city manager to issue emergency orders or directives or declarations that conform with federal, state, or county orders, directives, or declarations, providing for automatic delay of finality of city commission action, pending post-commission meeting public comments, providing for an effective date. The current emergency ordinance will expire, which if this was not adopted, your next city commission meeting would be the old-fashioned way and not by the use of communication media technology. I should note, though, that the governor's emergency order, which is referenced in all of our emergency ordinances, expires on June the 30th. So the availability of meetings without a physical quorum present may be endangered by the expiration of the governor's executive orders. I know there are a number of municipalities in Palm Beach, Broward, and Dade County who have been treated a little bit different under the governor's orders, that are seeking to have an extension of the right to conduct telemeetings, if you will. And we'll see. We've got a little bit of time because you have an extra week between now and the next commission meeting. So I'll keep you advised by email what the status is.
And I've been inquiring, Mayor, with the emergency management team. You know, the county commission does their meetings in person, so I don't think it's a burning issue for them. But I did, you know, Boca did indicate, I think they're pursuing that, and they've heard rumblings that the governor is considering doing that. And I'll check with our lobbyist too tomorrow and see if Matt has heard anything further. But all three counties would like to see that extended for a short time at least.
Correct. All right. So we're approving an ordinance that may not be valid because it's relying on the governor's executive order. Is that correct, Jim?
That's correct. What we would have to do is at the first meeting in July, we'd probably have to deal with that issue and see what type of steps we could do on a local level that are consistent with Florida law.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Thank you. Any further discussion from the commission? Any discussion from the public? Seeing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Grant.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Finserga.
Yes.
Commissioner Katz.
Yes.
Commissioner Hay. Commissioner Hay.
Sorry about that. Aye.
Commissioner Romulus.
Aye.
Vote is 5-0.
Excellent. All right, moving on to item 12D, discussion authorized to terminate franchise agreement with FLSC LLC for textile recycling program. May I have a motion to remove from the table?
So move.
Second.
And so we have an update and addendum attached. So can we get?
Yes, Mayor, you have an updated item in the agenda, but we got a very last minute request for some amendments to it from the franchisee. The substantive provisions, which are consistent throughout, what they did is they did a hand marked up version of it, which I did send to all the members of the commission by email. But let me just tell you what the substantive provision is, because you would have gotten it just before the start of tonight's commission meeting with little time to review it. So the draft that was in your backup says that they would pay $2,000 per bin annually, prorated on a monthly basis. And they changed that to what they thought was consistent with their presentation, was $2,000 per location. There would be a maximum of 15 bin locations. So that would generate for the city $30,000 maximum, as opposed to $100,000 maximum as originally contemplated.
And so did we receive a check from them for the money in arrears?
Yes, Mayor, they did timely send a check at the end of last week for half of the amount that is the arrearage. The other half will be paid on a monthly basis, prorated over the next 12 months.
And is that according to?
That's in the addendum, and they did agree to that.
Okay, and so if we terminate this franchise agreement, does this mean that they are required to have like 30 days to remove all of their bins from their locations in the city?
Yes.
And the other alternative is that if we accept the 2,000s per location instead of 2,000 per bin, we can extend it for a little bit longer.
The term of the agreement would be the same as it was under the original document.
And when does that expire?
I don't have that date handy. Maybe one of the members of staff knows.
So if it started August 6, 2018,
it was a 3-year agreement, as I recall.
and so basically it's one more year at this location. You know, my thinking is that, you know, getting the money in is good. We know that it's going to end within a year. You know, and an RFQ normally takes 3 to 4 months, or may only take 2 months. You know, I'll leave it up to how the commission thinks. Do we want to accept the reduced amount for the remainder of the year, or for, you know, basically another 14 months, or do we want to move forward and try to find another vendor? However, the ability for us to get the deal that we were going to maybe get from Gulfstream Goodwill as the only other bidder is probably going to be a lot lower. And so my thought process is that let's keep the original contract so that we are getting money into the city. Otherwise, we don't have anything, and that way we can plan the RFQ and understand exactly where the locations are going, because we kind of like this was a pilot program with the city of having these bins. And, you know, the other possibility is hopefully we may be able to expand it for other types of highly valuable recyclables like electronics, wires, something in that sense. You know, I always remembered how they said in the Summer Olympics that were supposed to happen in Japan, they were going to use that all of the gold and silver was from recycled materials from old cell phones. So I think you know, depending on how the commission feels, if we get some money now and we can work on a better recycling program for next year.
Mayor.
Yeah.
I'm in support of your position. I kind of was a big proponent of this, and it has not lived up to expectations in its pilot form. And, you know, I think a potential to see it run its course and then reset and make adjustments at that time might provide us a better future moving forward versus changing things midstream and, you know, second guessing the pilot program. So I'm in support of your position.
No, I saw that, what is it, over on I think it's called Boynton Commons, where the Old Navy, Bed Bath Beyond, Marshall's Ulta is that one of the bins was full. And so to not have that recycling, aspect of it, I think we need to have something in the city, and this way we'll still have a recycling aspect of it for the textiles, and we can make a better plan come next August. So, Jim, we can accept the handwritten amendments and move forward?
Yes, Mayor, the motion would be to accept that version of it, then we'll put it in a clean format for signature.
All right. So, may I have that motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All right. Well, I think Vice Mayor was first to second. Any further discussion from the commission? Seeing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Katz, you had something you want to put on a future agenda item?
Yeah, just when it's timely for city legal to come back to us with options relative to the QPOD investigation, we recommended to the state IG and where to go from there.
Mayor, I'll be ready to do that at the next meeting if you want to just move it as, approve it as an agenda item for the next meeting.
So motion to place that under future agenda items for next meeting.
Absolutely. Do I have a second?
Mayor?
Yes. Yeah.
I think what Jim was saying was he'll be ready to actually report on it, Jim, on July 7th.
Yeah, it won't need to go on the future agenda at that point. I'll have a report ready with the options at the next meeting.
So it'll be on the actual agenda if you're ready for that.
Will this be an old business or new business?
I'll just put it under legal.
Okay.
If that's okay.
All right. So let's have a second for the QPOD discussion for legal.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further discussion from the commission? Seeing
Mayor?
none? Yes, Commissioner Romulus.
I'd like to add under future agenda as a discussion item.
No, can I finish the motion for the QPOD then? Yeah. All those in favor for the QPOD to go to legal, state so by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. Commissioner Romulus, you have the floor for any future agenda items.
Yes, Mayor, I'd just like to add as a future discussion, perhaps in a few weeks from now, not necessarily next meeting, but just revisiting the purpose of our Arts Commission, as now this would be perhaps a good opportunity to talk about what's our vision for artwork that we want to see in the city, and how we want to continue to celebrate diversity in this community, along with perhaps some policies that we may need to put in place to prevent situations such as what's happened in the past from happening again. So I'd like to bring that up as a discussion item in the future.
Absolutely. The only issue that I have is that, do we want to wait after the city manager hires a public arts director, or before?
Not sure. I mean, we could do it either way, but I believe it's better perhaps to do it before. That way we know who as well to.
So that we can give the city manager some of our input regarding what we would like to see moving forward with the public arts. And I guess, we've had I believe when the Boynton Beach Chamber of Commerce wanted to exclude projects over 10 million, we had that discussion, I think 2016 or 17. So just a revisit of the public arts discussion I'd like to have. And if is that okay, Lori?
Yeah, and I think we can actually do it simultaneously, because we're just reviewing the job description literally as we speak. Catherine is, and I wanted to get that job opportunity posted immediately, because it takes some time, obviously, to have an application period. So we'll kind of do it both at the same time if we can, but I won't, it'll be every bit of several months probably before I'm going to get someone on board realistically.
Okay.
So we'll bring something to you in the near future, definitely, to just have a discussion of the overall program. Fine with that.
Excellent. And
Mayor, one more thing.
yes.
In the interim, attending the Arts Commission meeting, I do believe one of their main concerns was the Kinetic Art Festival.
Right.
So is there any plan? I know we have an assistant that was here for the arts manager. What do we have? What can we do to keep that process or keep that event going? Are we doing anything for that?
Yeah, we're regrouping now, but Nicole, we've increased her hours, honestly, and she's been more than helpful and willing to step up. It's gonna take some more of Catherine's time, and really we're gonna have to pull together as a staff. That is a major event that takes a tremendous amount of work, and that is going to be difficult for us, but we're gonna get it done. It may be a little bit different, I don't know, but yes, we're regrouping now. But that's why I'm anxious to get some help on board.
Excellent. And I think, do the installations after hurricane season will probably be beneficial for everybody.
Definitely.
Yeah, I have to look at the timeline and what all we did. Debbie did a lot of work on that.
Yeah. And then I also would like Lori to see if we can get a presentation from Lachey. I know that she took over from Octavia, but I know that she's a couple of our residents have reached out to her, and so I'd like to just have the community get a better understanding of what she does and how she can help our residents here in Boynton Beach.
Okay, no problem. That'll be also more on our SHIP program, our housing program. Probably more so than CDBG, but we'll be happy to do that. I can have her on the July 7th agenda.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Well, if she's busy with everything else, we can wait till the second meeting. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she doesn't have to work over July 4th for the presentation. All right. Seeing no more further items, may I have a motion to adjourn? And
so moved.
Second.
All right. And John, would you mind doing the closing?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Grant. As a reminder, a recorded version of this session will be posted to the City of Boynton Beach's YouTube channel. Links to that channel are available on the City of Boynton Beach's website at www.boynton-beach.org. This concludes tonight's meeting. On behalf of Mayor Grant and all of our elected officials, the city manager and city staff, thank you for attending today's City of Boynton Beach City Commission meeting. Be safe and have a great night.
Thank you.